By 4 a.m., I was curled on my bathroom floor, vomiting bile. By 5 a.m., my roommate Sarah was driving me to the ER, while I screamed at every pothole. Acute appendicitis, the surgeon announced after a quick exam. We need to operate immediately. It could rupture any moment. Within minutes, I was being prepped for surgery. The anesthesiologist, Dr. Park, gave me a tight smile as she hooked up my IV. "Just a routine procedure," she said gently. "You'll be out for about an hour." I remember counting backward from 10, and then nothing. I woke up 5 hours later. The first thing I felt was pain, not just the sharp sting from the appendectomy incision, but a deeper, cramping ache in my pelvis. Then I noticed my sister, Rebecca, sitting beside me, gripping my hand with tears running down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much, Lauren. You've given me everything." My head was foggy. "What?" Mom burst in, glowing with excitement. 20 eggs. They retrieved 20 beautiful eggs. Rebecca's finally going to be a mom. I blinked. "What eggs?" "Yours, sweetheart," Mom said brightly. "While you were under for the appendix, Dr. Morrison performed the retrieval. Rebecca's IVF rounds failed, but with your eggs, everything's going to work out." I tried to sit up. Pain tore through my abdomen, 2 kinds, one from the surgery. The other, a deeper ache I recognized from stories my friends had told after fertility treatments. A pain that came from maternal needles reaching the ovaries. You did this while I was unconscious." Rebecca squeezed my hand tighter. "Not to quarreled. You're single, 32, and you said you don't want kids." "I do. I've dreamed of this my whole life." "That doesn't mean anyone can authorize a procedure on my body without my consent." "It was perfectly safe," Mom insisted. "Barely added to your surgery time." "Dr. Morrison's amazing." "Dr. Morrison, the ER surgeon." Mom waved that off. "No, he's Rebecca's fertility specialist. We brought him in just for this. It cost a bit extra, but it's all done now." My brain couldn't even catch up with the shock. While I was unconscious in surgery, they'd arranged for an entirely separate invasive procedure, without telling me, without asking me, without permission. This was a serious breach of medical ethics, I said, my voice shaking. Rebecca looked offended. "I'm your sister. This was a gift. I never agreed to give it." My father walked in holding a coffee. "There's our hero. Rebecca's already at the clinic. They're fertilizing your eggs now. You're going to be an aunt." "No, I'm going to be a biological mother to children I never agreed to help create." Dad's face darkened. "Don't be dramatic. You weren't using them. Rebecca's been through so much." "They're still mine." "You said you don't want kids, Lauren. And that doesn't mean my body is available for someone else's plan." I could barely breathe through the betrayal. I had no idea how deep this went, but I knew exactly what to do next. I demanded to speak with the hospital's administrator. When she arrived, I spoke clearly, despite the pain. "While I was under anesthesia for an emergency appendectomy, an outside physician, unauthorized by your hospital, performed a fertility procedure without my consent. I want the surgical records, security footage, and I want to file a formal report." Immediately, her face went pale. "An unauthorized fertility procedure. 20 eggs, retrieved without my knowledge or permission. I want this investigated." Within the hour, security had sealed off access to the OR. The police were brought in. The hospital board was notified. What they uncovered was worse than I imagined. Security footage showed Dr. Morrison, who had no privileges at the hospital, being escorted in through a back entrance by my mother. Footage captured him entering the OR with non-standard equipment. Meanwhile, Rebecca signed documents in the hallway. But the most damning evidence, Rebecca had live-tweeted the entire event. "At the hospital. Today's the day. Lauren's in surgery. In just a few hours, I'll have what I've dreamed of. 20 eggs retrieved. My baby dreams are finally coming true. Thank you to my amazing parents for making this possible." She documented everything. There would be hearings, investigations, lawsuits, medical licenses on the line. But at that moment, all I could think about was how deep a betrayal had to go before it no longer felt like family. She literally documented the crime in real time. Detective Juan, who specialized in medical assault cases, was horrified. "They coordinated this. Your family actually planned to steal your eggs during emergency surgery." I showed her the text messages I found on my phone from the week before. "Mom, Lauren's appointment with her gyno is Thursday. Rebecca, can we do it then? Mom, no, she'd need to consent for that. We need an emergency situation. Rebecca, this is taking too long. I'm 38. Mom, be patient. Opportunities come. They've been waiting for me to have a medical emergency. This is conspiracy, Detective Huang said. Premeditated assault, theft of genetic material. And since they've already fertilized the eggs, we're looking at reproductive coercion. While the police built their case, I called the fertility clinic. You have genetic material that was stolen from me, I told the director. 20 eggs taken without consent during unrelated surgery. If you implant even one embryo, you're complicit in reproductive assault. Ma'am, I have paperwork here signed by you. Check the signature and the timestamp. That signature was forged while I was under general anesthesia having my appendix removed. The clinic immediately froze all procedures, but it was too late. Rebecca had already had 5 embryos created. 5 potential children with my DNA, created without my knowledge while I was unconscious on an operating table. I posted everything on social media. The security footage, leaked by a sympathetic hospital employee. Rebecca's tweets, the text messages planning the theft, everything. My sister stole 20 eggs from my body during emergency surgery because she's infertile. My parents helped. They drugged me, invaded my body, and stole my genetic material to make themselves grandparents. This is what reproductive coercion looks like. The internet exploded. #egg thief became the top trending topic. Rebecca's employer, a prominent law firm, saw the footage of her signing consent forms for procedures on an unconscious person. She was fired within hours. Dr. Morrison's medical license was emergency suspended. Turns out, he'd done this before, performed unauthorized procedures on unconscious patients for the right price. Dr. Park, the anesthesiologist who kept me under for 5 hours instead of 1, broke down and confessed. Rebecca had paid her $50,000 to extend the anesthesia and look the other way. But my parents were the worst. They went on local news, trying to spin the story. Lauren is being selfish, my mother told the reporter. She has dozens of eggs she'll never use. Rebecca only needed 20. We were trying to create life, create grandchildren. How is that wrong? The reporter's response was brutal. You drugged your daughter and stole her genetic material. How is that not wrong? She was already unconscious. For appendix surgery, not egg harvesting. The eggs would have gone to waste. They weren't yours to take. The interview went viral for all the wrong reasons. My parents became the face of reproductive entitlement. People so desperate for grandchildren they'd steal genetic material from their own daughter. The criminal trial was a sensation. Rebecca, my parents, Dr. Morrison, and Dr. Park all faced charges. The prosecution presented it simply. Lauren Henderson went into surgery to have her appendix removed. While unconscious and vulnerable, her family orchestrated the theft of her genetic material. They stole her eggs, fertilized them, and created embryos, potential children, without her consent. This isn't just assault. It's an attempt to force someone into biological motherhood against their will. Rebecca tried to play victim. I've suffered 7 miscarriages. 7. Lauren has never wanted children. Those eggs were being wasted. The prosecutor destroyed her. Lauren's reproductive choices are hers alone. Your infertility doesn't entitle you to her body. But she's my sister. That makes the violation worse, not better. My mother took the stand and actually said, "We did what was best for the family. Lauren is selfish, keeping all those eggs when Rebecca has none." The judge interrupted her. "Mrs. Henderson, are you actually arguing that you have the right to harvest your daughter's organs because you disagree with how she uses them?" Eggs aren't organs. They're genetic material taken from organs through invasive surgery. If you'd taken her kidney while she was unconscious because Rebecca needed one, would that be acceptable? That's different. How? Mom couldn't answer. The verdicts were unanimous. Rebecca got 8 years for conspiracy, assault, and theft of genetic material. My parents got 5 years each. Dr. Morrison lost his license and got 10 years. This wasn't his first offense. Dr. Park got 3 years and would never practice medicine again. But the hardest part was the embryos. 5 embryos. 5 potential children with my DNA sitting in a freezer. Rebecca begged from jail. "Please don't destroy them. They're my only chance at motherhood. They're my genetic material, stolen from me. But they exist now. They're Brian's too. Brian, Rebecca's husband, had divorced her the moment he learned the truth. He thought I donated willingly. The court ruled the embryos had to be destroyed. Rebecca screamed at the verdict. "You're murdering my babies." "They were never your babies," I said. "They were my stolen eggs that you turned into embryos without my consent." The destruction happened on a Tuesday. I didn't attend, but I felt it. The strange relief of knowing my stolen genetic material wouldn't be used to create children I never consented to. Rebecca wrote me a letter from prison. "You've destroyed my life. All I wanted was to be a mother. You have eggs you'll never use, a uterus you don't want to fill. I have empty arms and a broken heart. How can you be so cruel?" I wrote back, "You destroyed your own life when you decided my body was your property. My eggs aren't community resources. My uterus isn't a public utility. My reproductive choices aren't family decisions. You violated me in the most intimate way possible. You tried to force me into biological motherhood while I was unconscious. That's not desperation. That's predation. It's been 3 years. I still have nightmares about waking up from surgery, finding out pieces of me have been stolen. I still feel the phantom pain sometimes, the specific ache of egg retrieval I never consented to. Rebecca will be released in 5 years. She'll be 46, likely past her fertile years. She writes sometimes about the unfairness of it all. How I've stolen her only chance at motherhood. My parents will be out sooner. They write about forgiveness, about family, about moving forward. But there's no moving forward from this. They didn't just steal eggs. They stole my bodily autonomy, my trust in medical professionals, my sense of safety in my own skin. Last month, I got married. My husband Tom knows the whole story. We're talking about having children, when we're ready, on our terms, with full consent. My parents won't know. They won't meet their grandchildren, not because I'm cruel, but because people who steal genetic material from unconscious women shouldn't be trusted around children. Rebecca won't be the aunt she dreamed of being. She'll be the cautionary tale I'd tell my daughters. Your body is yours. Your eggs are yours. Your choices are yours. And anyone who tries to steal those choices, even family, especially family, is committing a crime. They wanted grandchildren so badly they were willing to steal them from my unconscious body. Instead, they got prison sentences and a daughter who will never speak to them again. They had no idea what I would do next. Now the whole world knows. Reproductive coercion is assault. Stealing eggs is theft. And but we're family is not a defense. It's a confession.
They say blood is thicker than water, but nobody mentions what happens when your own blood tries to drown you. My name is Shanice, and I learned that lesson at 17 when I watched my parents hand my future to my sister on a silver platter. Literally. Congratulations, Victoria, State Science Fair champion. The banner stretched across our living room like a victory flag. Mom had ordered a cake. Dad opened champagne. The local newspaper photographer snapped pictures of Victoria holding my trophy. Smile, Shanice, Mom whispered, nudging me into the frame. This is a family celebration. I smiled. I always smiled. That's what the quiet, responsible daughter does. But inside, I was screaming. 3 months earlier, I'd spent every weekend in our garage building a water purification system from scratch. I'd burned through my babysitting money buying materials. I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. perfecting the filtration process, testing pH levels, documenting everything in neat handwriting that would make my teachers proud. Victoria had been too busy with her boyfriend and cheerleading practice to notice. Until the night before the science fair deadline. "Shanice, honey," Dad had said, appearing in the garage doorway with Victoria trailing behind him. "We need to talk." Victoria's eyes were red. She'd been crying, her specialty when she wanted something. "Tell her, Daddy," she sniffled. Dad cleared his throat. "Your sister's having some academic challenges this semester. Her GPA dropped, and she might lose her spot on the honor roll." "Okay," I said, not understanding why this was my problem. "The thing is," Mom chimed in, wringing her hands, "Victoria needs this science fair win for her college applications. You know how competitive it is for her generation." My generation was apparently different, less important. But this is my project, I said quietly. Technically, Dad said, you're both Collins girls. What matters is that our family succeeds. Victoria stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. Please, Shanice, I'll make it up to you, I promise. I just need this one thing. She always needed just one thing, and somehow I always gave it to her. Think about it, Mom added. You're naturally smart. You'll have plenty of opportunities, but Victoria, she needs more support. The unspoken message was clear. You're strong enough to handle disappointment. She isn't. So I handed over my project, my research, my 3 months of work. Victoria spent 2 days memorizing my notes and won first place. The scholarship offer came 6 weeks later, full ride to State University, 4 years, everything paid for. The letter was addressed to Victoria Collins, State Science Fair champion. I found her in her room, holding the acceptance packet. This should be mine, I said. She looked up, and for a split second I saw something that might have been guilt. Then her face hardened. But it's not, she said. It's mine now. You didn't even understand the project. You called the filtration system a water cleaner thing during your presentation. I won, didn't I? With my work. Our work, she corrected. Family effort, remember? That's what Dad said. I stared at her, really looked at her. The sister I'd covered for when she snuck out. The sister I'd helped with homework since middle school. The sister who'd borrowed my clothes, my books, my ideas, and never once said thank you. You're not even sorry, I whispered. Victoria shrugged. Sorry for what? For accepting an opportunity? For making our family proud? That night at dinner, I tried one last time. I want to apply to State University, too, I announced. I'll take out loans. Dad set down his fork. Shanice, be realistic. We can't afford 2 college tuitions. Victoria's already committed. But I earned that scholarship. Victoria earned it, Mom said firmly. She presented the project. She answered the judge's questions. With my research. Enough. Dad's voice cut through the room like a blade. This family doesn't air its dirty laundry. Victoria is going to State, and that's final. You should be proud that your sister is succeeding, thanks to you. Thanks to me. Those 4 words broke something inside me that had been cracking for years. I looked around the table, at Dad's stern face, at Mom's pleading eyes, at Victoria's satisfied smirk, and realized I was invisible in my own family. I was the supporting character in everyone else's story. That night, I packed everything that mattered into 2 suitcases. I left a note on my pillow. Gone to build my own future. Don't look for me. I walked out of that house at 3 a.m. and never looked back. They'd taught me that family meant sacrifice. What they didn't teach me was that sometimes you have to sacrifice the family. The Greyhound bus smelled like stale coffee and broken dreams. I had $340 in cash, 2 suitcases, and absolutely no plan. Next stop, Chicago, the driver called out. Chicago sounded far enough away. The first month was hell. I slept on a friend of a friend's couch until she got tired of me eating her cereal. Then it was a weekly motel that charged by the day and had mysterious stains on everything. I worked double shifts at a diner where the manager had wandering hands and the customers left quarters as tips. You look like college material, said Rosa, the night cook, sliding me a plate of leftover eggs. What are you doing here? Surviving, I said, too tired to explain the whole story. Surviving ain't living, mija. She was right, but surviving was all I could manage. I found a studio apartment in a neighborhood where sirens were the lullaby and rent was $400 a month. The shower barely worked, the heat was a suggestion, and my neighbors included a guy who practiced drums at 2 a.m. and a woman who collected cats. But it was mine. I picked up a second job at a campus bookstore near Northwestern University. Watching students complain about their organic chemistry homework while I rang up their $300 textbooks was torture, but the employee discount helped me buy used books on environmental science. You read this stuff for fun? Asked Jake, my co-worker, flipping through my copy of Silent Spring. Knowledge is power, I said. Knowledge is expensive, he laughed. That's why I dropped out. But I couldn't drop out of something I'd never been allowed to start. The community garden changed everything. I'd found it by accident, walking home from my night shift at the diner. It was tucked between two abandoned lots, a small patch of green in a concrete desert. Even at 6 a.m., people were there, planting, watering, talking in hushed voices like they were sharing secrets. You lost? A woman with dirt under her fingernails and fire in her eyes looked up from a tomato plant. Just curious, I said. Curiosity's dangerous around here, she grinned. I'm Marlo. You look like you need coffee. She poured me a cup from a thermos that had seen better decades. The coffee was strong enough to wake the dead. What is this place? Community garden, food justice project, revolution in progress. Marlo shrugged. Depends on who's asking. I'm Shanice, and I'm asking because I want to help. Help costs nothing. Commitment costs everything. She studied my face. Which one are you offering? Both. That was 6 months ago. Now I spent every free moment at the garden learning about soil pH and companion planting and how to write grant proposals that didn't sound like begging. You've got a gift for this, Marlo said, reviewing my latest funding application. Ever think about making it official? What do you mean? Night classes, environmental science program at the community college. I know the professor. She owes me a favor. The application fee was $50. I had $73 in my checking account. I can't afford. Scholarship applications due next week. You write it, I'll submit it. Why would you do that? Marlo looked up from her laptop. Because you remind me of me, 10 years ago. Angry, brilliant, and convinced the world was against you. The world is against me. Then change the world. The scholarship came through. Partial tuition, enough to get started. I enrolled in 2 classes, Introduction to Environmental Science and Grant Writing for Nonprofits. Professor Martinez was tough but fair. She pushed us to think bigger than recycling bins and Earth Day cleanups. Environmental justice isn't about hugging trees, she said during our first lecture. It's about power. Who has it, who doesn't, and what we're willing to do about it. After class, I stayed behind. I want to do more than just pass your class, I told her. More how? I want to change things, really change them. She smiled. Then you're in the right place. That night, I was scrolling through social media when Victoria's face popped up on my feed. She was at some networking event, holding a champagne glass and smiling that practice smile she'd perfected in high school. The caption read, Excited to announce the launch of Ecotech Solutions, bringing innovative green technology to the masses. Giro entrepreneur, Shior sustainability watch all girl boss. I clicked through to her company website, buzzwords everywhere. Revolutionary water purification systems, cutting-edge environmental solutions, award-winning founder, my water purification system, my research, my work, repackaged with venture capital funding and a marketing budget. The About the Founder page made my blood boil. Victoria Collins discovered her passion for environmental science in high school, where her award-winning water purification project earned statewide recognition. She was still stealing from me 3 years later. I screenshot everything and sent it to Marlo. Her response came back in seconds. Time to build something bigger than her lies. She was right. Victoria could have my past, but she wasn't getting my future. That future started now. Eden, Marlo said, writing the letters on a napkin at our favorite diner. Empowering daughters of Earth now. That's either brilliant or terrible, Val, I said, stirring my coffee. All the best ideas sound terrible at first. She grinned. Remember when I suggested you apply for that scholarship? 6 months had passed since then. I'd finished my first semester with a 4.0 GPA while working 3 jobs. My grant writing class had turned into an internship with Professor Martinez, who connected me with local environmental groups desperate for funding help. "We've got $500 in seed money," Marlowe continued. "Rosa donated it from her tips jar." "Rosa from the diner?" "She believes in us. Question is, do you?" I looked around the diner, at Rosa refilling coffee cups, at the construction workers grabbing breakfast before their shifts, at the single mom counting change to pay for her daughter's pancakes. These were the people who lived with environmental injustice every day: polluted air, contaminated water, food deserts. "I'm in," I said. "Good, because I already filed the paperwork." Eden started in Marlowe's living room. Our first office was a card table covered in grant applications, community surveys, and empty pizza boxes. Our first program was a workshop series, Green Skills for Real Life. "Nobody's going to come," I said, setting up folding chairs in the community center basement. "They'll come," Marlowe said. "You just have to give them a reason." 12 women showed up to our first workshop. 12 became 20, 20 became 50. "I never thought I could understand this science stuff," said Carmen, a single mom from the neighborhood. "But when you explain it like it affects my kids' health, it makes sense." "That's the point," I told her. "Environmental science isn't just for people in lab coats." The workshops grew. We added sessions on urban gardening, water testing, air quality monitoring. I taught women how to read EPA reports, how to petition city council, how to demand answers when their children developed asthma at twice the national rate. "You're a natural teacher," Professor Martinez told me after observing one of my sessions. "Have you considered graduate school?" "Can't afford it." "There are ways: fellowships, research assistantships. I know people." But graduate school felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. Eden was growing faster than we could handle. The breakthrough came when I applied for the Morrison Foundation grant, $50,000 for innovative environmental justice programs. I spent 2 weeks crafting that application, documenting every success story, every life changed. "We got it," Marlowe said, waving the acceptance letter. "All of it." Suddenly, we had real office space, computers, a budget for programming. I quit 2 of my 3 jobs and threw myself into Eden full-time. "I want to expand the workshop model," I told our new board of directors. "Train women to become environmental advocates in their own communities." "Ambitious," said Dr. Williams, our board chair. "But ambitious gets results." The From Overlook to Overachiever workshop series was my baby. I poured everything into it, every slight, every dismissal, every time someone had told me I wasn't enough. "Raise your hand if someone ever told you to be realistic about your dreams," I said to a room of 30 women. Every hand went up. "Now raise your hand if you believed them." Most hands stayed up. That's what we're here to change. The workshops went viral, not online, but in the way that matters. Word of mouth, woman to woman, mother to daughter. Eden's reputation spread through communities that had been ignored by mainstream environmental groups. "You should give a TED Talk," suggested Valeria, our newest intern. She was 22, brilliant, and reminded me of myself at that age, if I'd had opportunities. "I'm not TED Talk material." "Says who?" "Says everyone who's ever mattered in my life." Maybe it's time to stop listening to them. The TEDx application was a long shot. Local event, small audience, but still. The theme was Voices Rising, and they wanted speakers who represented underrepresented perspectives. "Environmental justice through community empowerment," I wrote in my proposal. "How overlooked voices can lead the climate conversation." They accepted me. The day of the talk, I stood backstage in a red dress I'd bought with my first Eden paycheck. My hands were shaking. "You've got this," Marlowe said, adjusting my microphone. "Just talk to them like you talk to the women in your workshops." I walked onto that stage and saw 200 faces looking back at me. For a second, I was 17 again, watching Victoria accept my award. Then I opened my mouth. They told me to be realistic about my dreams, I began. So I got realistic about changing the world instead. The talk lasted 18 minutes. By the time I finished, half the audience was on their feet. The video hit 100,000 views in the first week, then 500,000, then 1 million. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Interview requests, speaking opportunities, partnership proposals. Eden's website crashed from traffic. "We're not grassroots anymore," Marlo said, scrolling through emails. "We're a movement." That's when the message appeared in my inbox. Subject: "We need to talk, Victoria." I stared at the screen for 5 minutes before opening it. "Saw your little speech online. Cute. We should catch up. I have some things to tell you about your success. Call me." My success was in quotes, like it was fake, like it didn't count. Some things never change. I deleted Victoria's email without responding. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. 3 days later, I was doom-scrolling Twitter when I saw it. Ecotech Solutions founder under investigation for fraud. My coffee went cold as I read the article. Victoria's company had collapsed overnight. Investors were claiming she'd misrepresented her technology, inflated her credentials, and spent funding on personal expenses instead of research and development. "Holy shit," Marlo said, reading over my shoulder. "Your sister's company is toast." The details kept getting worse. Victoria had promised revolutionary water purification systems to investors, but the technology didn't work. The prototypes were faulty. The patents she claimed to own belonged to other companies. She'd burned through $2 million in 18 months with nothing to show for it. "Look at this," Valeria said, pulling up another article on her laptop. "She's trending on LinkedIn, and not in a good way." The comments were brutal. Former employees calling her incompetent, investors demanding their money back, environmental groups distancing themselves from her greenwashing practices. My phone buzzed, text from an unknown number. "This is all your fault. Call me. V." "She's blaming you?" Marlo grabbed my phone. "For what? Being successful while she was committing fraud?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. Mom's number. I hadn't spoken to my parents in 4 years. My finger hovered over the decline button. "Answer it," Marlo said. "You need to hear this." "Hello, Mom." "Shanice." Her voice was shaky, older than I remembered. "Thank God you picked up." "What do you want?" "It's about Victoria. She's in trouble." "I saw the news." "Then you know how bad it is. The lawyers, the investigators, the reporters calling the house. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof." "That's unfortunate." "Shanice, please. We need you to come home, just to talk to your sister. She's not handling this well." "Not handling what well? Getting caught?" "She made some mistakes." "Mistakes?" I stood up, pacing around Eden's office. "Mom, she defrauded investors. She lied about having technology that didn't exist. Those aren't mistakes. That's criminal behavior." "She's your sister." "She stopped being my sister the day she stole my future." Silence on the other end. Then, "We know you're angry about the science fair thing, but—" "The science fair thing?" My voice cracked. "You mean when you gave away my scholarship? When you told me to be proud that she was succeeding thanks to me? That was different. You were both so young." "I was young. She was a thief, and apparently she still is." "Please, Shanice, just come home. We can work this out as a family." "I have a family. It's not you." I hung up and immediately blocked the number. "Damn," Valeria whispered. "That was ice cold." "That was necessary," Marlo corrected. "They only call when they need something." The next morning I was reviewing grant applications when our receptionist buzzed my office. "Shanice, there are some people here to see you. They say they're your parents." My stomach dropped. "Tell them I'm not available." I tried. They're not leaving. They're sitting in the lobby. I looked out my office window. Dad's silver sedan was parked illegally in front of our building. Through the glass doors I could see Mom pacing while Dad sat rigid in one of our waiting chairs. Want me to call security? Marlo asked. No, let's get this over with. I walked into the lobby. Dad looked older, grayer. Mom had lost weight, and her hands shook as she clutched her purse. Shanice, Mom started, you look wonderful, so professional. What do you want? Dad stood up. We came to talk about Victoria, about the family. There's nothing to talk about. She's lost everything, Mom said, tears starting. Her house, her car, her reputation. The lawyers say she might face criminal charges. Good. How can you say that? Dad's voice rose. She's your sister. My sister died the day you chose her over me. This woman is a stranger who happens to share my DNA. We never chose her over you, Mom protested. Really? Then where was my college fund? Where was my scholarship? Where were you when I was sleeping in my car during a snowstorm because I couldn't afford rent? They exchanged glances. They hadn't known about the car. We thought you were strong enough to handle things on your own, Dad said quietly. I was 17. You always seemed so capable. I was capable because I had to be, because you never gave me a choice. Valeria appeared at my elbow. Shanice, your 2 p.m. is here. I looked at this young woman, brilliant, ambitious, everything I'd been at her age. But she had mentors. She had support. She had people who believed in her potential instead of just her ability to sacrifice for others. Mom, Dad, I'd like you to meet Valeria. She's one of our program coordinators. Valeria, these are my biological parents. Valeria shook their hands politely. It's nice to meet you. Shanice talks about family a lot in her workshops. She does? Mom looked hopeful. Oh, yes. About how important it is to choose people who support your dreams instead of stealing them. Dad's face went red. Now wait just a minute. Actually, I interrupted, you need to leave. This is my workplace, and you weren't invited. Shanice, please, Mom begged. Victoria needs help. We need help. The house. What about the house? We co-signed some loans for her company. If she can't pay them back, you'll lose it. We're too old to start over. Please, just consider. The lobby door opened. Victoria walked in. She looked terrible. Designer clothes wrinkled, hair unwashed, dark circles under her eyes. But her chin was still up, her shoulders still straight, still playing the victim, even now. Hello, Shanice, she said. We need to talk. Get out, I said. Victoria stepped further into the lobby. 5 minutes. That's all I need. You need a lot more than 5 minutes. You need a lawyer, a therapist, and probably a miracle. Shanice, please, Dad said. Just listen to what she has to say. I've heard enough lies from her to last a lifetime. Our receptionist was staring. Valeria had her phone out, probably recording. This was turning into a scene, and scenes were bad for business. Conference room, I said. 5 minutes, then you leave. We filed into the small meeting room. Victoria sat across from me, flanked by our parents like bodyguards. The fluorescent lights made her look even worse, pale, hollow-eyed, desperate. You look good, she said. Success suits you. Cut the small talk. What do you want? I want to explain. Explain what? How you committed fraud, how you lied to investors, how you built a company on stolen ideas and fake credentials. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. What wasn't supposed to happen? Getting caught? Victoria's composure cracked. I was trying to make something real. The technology, the company. I thought I could figure it out as I went along. Using my research as your foundation. That was years ago. That was my work. I slammed my hand on the table. My project that you stole, my scholarship that you took, and when that wasn't enough, you kept stealing. From investors, from employees, from anyone stupid enough to trust you. I never meant for it to go this far. But you meant for it to go somewhere. You meant to keep taking credit for things you didn't do. Mom leaned forward. Shanice, honey, we know you're angry. Angry? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm not angry anymore. Anger is what I felt at 17 when you handed my future to her. This is something else entirely. What is it then? Dad asked. Satisfaction. The word hung in the air like smoke. You're satisfied that your sister is suffering? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I'm satisfied that the truth finally came out, that her house of cards finally collapsed, that for once in her life she's facing consequences for her actions. She could go to prison, Dad said. Good. Maybe she'll learn something there that you never taught her at home. Victoria finally spoke up. You really hate me that much? I don't hate you. I nothing you. You're irrelevant to my life. Then help us, she said, leaning forward. You have money now, connections. I could what? Bail you out? Clean up your mess? Enable you one more time? You could save the family. What family? I stood up. The family that told me I should be grateful to watch my sister succeed with my work. The family that never called when I was struggling. The family that only shows up when they need something. We're still your parents, Mom said, crying now. Biologically, yes, but parents are supposed to protect their children, support their dreams, love them unconditionally. You did none of those things for me. We loved you, Dad protested. You loved the idea of me, the responsible one, the one who wouldn't make waves, the one who would sacrifice everything for family unity. I walked to the window, looking out at the street where people were living their normal lives. But you never loved me, the real me, the one with dreams and ambitions and feelings. That's not true, Mom sobbed. Then where were you when I graduated valedictorian from community college? Where were you when I got into graduate school? Where were you when I won the Morrison Fellowship? Where were you when my TEDx talk went viral? Silence. You don't even know about any of that, do you? Because you never cared enough to find out. Victoria cleared her throat. The house is not my problem. Mom and Dad will be homeless. They made their choice when they co-signed your loans. Actions have consequences. You taught me that lesson very well. Please, Victoria's voice cracked. I'm begging you. You're begging me? I turned back to face her. Do you remember what you said when I begged you not to take my scholarship? When I begged you to tell the truth about the science project? She looked away. You said it was yours now, that I should be proud of your success. That family meant sacrifice. I sat back down, leaning across the table. Well, congratulations. You're about to learn what sacrifice really means. Shanice, Dad said, we raised you better than this. No, you didn't. You raised me to be a doormat, to give and give until there was nothing left. But I raised myself to be something else entirely. What's that? Mom asked. Someone who knows her worth. Someone who doesn't accept scraps from people who should love her most. Someone who builds her own table instead of begging for a seat at yours. I stood up again. Your 5 minutes are up. We're not done, Victoria started. Yes, you are. All of you. You're done taking from me, done using me, done expecting me to fix the problems you created. I opened the conference room door. Valeria, please escort my guests out and make sure they understand they're not welcome back. Of course, Valeria said, appearing immediately. As they filed out, Mom turned back one last time. You've changed, Shanice. Yes, I have. I've changed into someone who won't let you destroy her twice. The door closed behind them. Through the window, I watched them get into Dad's car. Victoria was gesturing wildly, probably still trying to convince them this was somehow my fault. My phone buzzed. Text from Victoria. This isn't over. I showed it to Valeria. What do you think she means? I think she means she's desperate enough to try anything. Valeria frowned. Be careful, Shanice. Desperate people do desperate things. She was right, but I'd been preparing for this fight my whole life. Let Victoria try her worst. I wasn't 17 anymore. Victoria called the next morning. Meet me for lunch, she said without preamble. Noon, that cafe on 5th Street. No. I have information you need to hear. I doubt that. About your precious Eden, about how your funding really works, about what people are saying behind your back. I should have hung up. Instead, I said, 1 hour, and you're paying. The cafe was crowded, which was good. Harder for Victoria to make a scene with witnesses around. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 lattes and that familiar, calculating look in her eyes. You came, she said as I sat down. You said you had information. Talk. You look tired. Running a nonprofit must be exhausting. Victoria! Right. Business. She pulled out her phone. I've been doing some research on your little organization. Very impressive growth. Almost too impressive. What's that supposed to mean? 50,000 from Morrison Foundation, 120 from the EPA, another 75 from private donors. She scrolled through what looked like financial records. That's a lot of money for someone who started with nothing. It's called grant writing. I'm good at it. Or maybe you're good at telling people what they want to hear. Playing the victim. Poor little overlooked sister makes good. Those grants were earned through legitimate proposals. Were they? Victoria leaned forward. Because I've been talking to some people. People who know how these things really work. What people? People who matter. People with influence. She smiled that cold smile I remembered from childhood. Turns out, your story has some holes in it. My story? The whole narrative. Brilliant girl from a broken family overcomes adversity to save the world. Very compelling. Very marketable. It's not a narrative. It's my life. Is it? Because the way I remember things, you were always the dramatic one. Always making everything about yourself. I stared at her. Are you serious right now? I'm serious about protecting our family's reputation, and your little revenge fantasy is starting to affect that. My revenge fantasy? This whole thing. She gestured around the cafe. The nonprofit, the speeches, the media attention. It's all just an elaborate way to get back at us, isn't it? No, Victoria. It's an elaborate way to help people. Something you've never understood. Help people, or help yourself to their sympathy. What do you want? She sat back, satisfied she'd gotten under my skin. I want you to issue a statement, publicly, saying that our family dispute was a misunderstanding, that you support me during this difficult time. Absolutely not. Then I'll have to tell my side of the story. Which is what, exactly? That my little sister has been spreading lies about our family for years, that she's built her entire career on a false narrative of abuse and neglect. Victoria's voice was getting louder. That she's a fraud who manipulates people's emotions for money. You're projecting. Am I? Because I have screenshots, Shanice, of your social media posts from college, very angry posts about family, very specific accusations. Those posts were private. Nothing's private anymore, especially when you become a public figure. She pulled up something on her phone. Here's a good one. Some families are just poison. Better to cut them out before they kill you. Very dramatic. That was years ago. I was processing trauma. Or you were building a brand. The angry daughter, the overlooked genius, the environmental justice warrior with a tragic backstory. You're delusional. Am I? Because I've already talked to a journalist, someone who specializes in exposing nonprofit fraud. He's very interested in your story. My blood went cold. What journalist? Someone who knows how to fact-check, someone who can verify whether your grants were really earned on merit or whether you played the diversity card to get sympathy funding. That's not how grant funding works, isn't it? Poor black girl from a broken family, pulling herself up by her bootstraps? That's a very appealing story to liberal donors with guilty consciences. Get out. I'm not done. Yes, you are. I stood up. You want to play games? Fine. But remember, I'm not 17 anymore. And unlike you, I actually earned everything I have. Did you? Because I remember a girl who was so desperate for attention that she'd do anything to get it, even lie about her own family. The only liar here is you, and everyone knows it now. Do they? Because when I'm done, they'll know a different story. They'll know about the sister who abandoned her family, who refused to help when they needed her most, who built her success on lies and manipulation. I leaned down, close enough that only she could hear me. Do your worst, Victoria, but remember, I have receipts, every email you sent me, every lie you told investors, every time you claimed credit for work you didn't do. You want to play dirty? I invented dirty? You're threatening me? I'm promising you, you come for me, you come for Eden, you come for the women I work with, and I will destroy you so completely that fraud charges will seem like a vacation. I walked away, leaving her sitting there with her mouth open. My phone was buzzing before I reached the door. Text from an unknown number. This is Toby Davis from the Chicago Tribune. I'd like to discuss some allegations about your organization. Please call me. Victoria worked fast. I had to work faster. I called Marlo. Emergency meeting, now. What happened? Victoria just declared war. Then we better get ready to win it. We go on offense, Marlo said, spreading documents across the conference table. Victoria wants to play in the media? Fine, but we control the narrative. Our emergency team meeting included Valeria, Professor Martinez, and Dr. Williams from our board. Everyone looked grim. What's our timeline? Dr. Williams asked. The environmental summit is in 3 days, I said. 500 attendees, national media coverage. If Victoria's going to strike, it'll be before then. Then we strike first, Valeria said. You're giving the keynote. Use it. Use it how? Tell your story, the real story, all of it. Professor Martinez nodded. Transparency is your best defense. Get ahead of whatever lies she's planning to spread. My phone rang. Toby Davis again. Answer it, Marlo said. Let's see what we're dealing with. I put it on speaker. This is Shanice. Ms. Collins, Toby Davis, Chicago Tribune. I'm working on a story about Eden and some questions that have been raised about your background. What kind of questions? Questions about the accuracy of your public statements regarding your family situation. I've spoken with someone who claims you've misrepresented your childhood to gain sympathy and funding. That someone wouldn't happen to be my sister Victoria, would it? I can't reveal my sources, but I'd like to give you a chance to respond to some specific allegations. Such as that you've exaggerated claims of family favoritism and neglect, that your parents provided equal support to both daughters, that your current success is built on a false narrative of overcoming adversity. Marlo was making slashing motions across her throat, but I ignored her. Mr. Davis, are you familiar with Victoria's current legal situation? I'm aware she's facing some business difficulties. Business difficulties? She's under federal investigation for fraud. She lied to investors, misrepresented her credentials, and stole intellectual property. But you're taking her word about my character? I'm simply investigating all angles of the story. Here's an angle for you. Check the public records, my high school transcripts, my college applications, my scholarship records, then check hers. See which one of us has a pattern of dishonesty. I appreciate your time, Ms. Collins. I'll be in touch if I have follow-up questions. He hung up. Damage control mode, Dr. Williams said immediately. We need to prepare statements, gather supporting documentation. No, I said. We don't hide, we don't defend, we attack. Shanice, Professor Martinez started. Victoria thinks she can use my past against me? Fine. Let's talk about the past. Let's talk about all of it. The next morning, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror in my hotel room, practicing my speech. The summit venue was already buzzing with activity, registration tables, vendor booths, media crews setting up cameras. You ready for this? Marlo asked, adjusting my microphone pack. I've been ready for this my whole life. The auditorium was packed. 500 environmental advocates, researchers, activists, and journalists. I spotted Toby Davis in the third row, notebook ready. "Ladies and gentlemen," the moderator announced, "please welcome Shanice Collins, founder and executive director of Eden." I walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. The lights were bright, but I could see faces in the crowd, women I'd trained, mentored, inspired, women who looked like me, who'd been overlooked and underestimated. "Good morning," I began. "I want to start with a story about a 17-year-old girl who built a water purification system in her garage." The room went quiet. She spent 3 months perfecting it, burned through her babysitting money buying materials, stayed up until 2 a.m. documenting her research. She was going to change the world with that project. I paused, looking directly at Toby Davis. But the night before the science fair, her parents took that project away from her. They gave it to her older sister, who needed it more, who deserved it more, who mattered more. Murmurs rippled through the audience. That girl watched her sister win first place with her work, watched her sister get the scholarship that should have been hers, watched her family celebrate while she stood in the background, invisible. I stepped closer to the microphone. "Some of you might think this is a story about family dysfunction, about sibling rivalry or parental favoritism, but it's not. It's a story about power, about who gets to succeed and who gets to sacrifice, about who gets believed and who gets silenced." The room was dead silent now. That girl was told to be proud of her sister's success, to be grateful that her family was thriving, thanks to her sacrifice. She was told that speaking up would be selfish, that demanding credit would be divisive. I could see people leaning forward in their seats. So she left. At 17, with 2 suitcases and 347, she walked away from everything she'd ever known. Not because she was angry, though she was, not because she wanted revenge, though she did, but because she finally understood that some people will never see your worth until you stop giving it away for free. The applause started slowly, then built to a roar. "They said the quiet ones don't shine," I continued, my voice rising above the noise. "So I built my own son. They said family comes first, so I built my own family. They said I should be realistic about my dreams, so I got realistic about changing the world instead." I gestured to the audience. Every woman in this room has been that 17-year-old girl at some point, told to step aside, told to be grateful for scraps, told to make herself smaller so someone else could shine brighter. The standing ovation was deafening. But we're not stepping aside anymore. We're not accepting scraps. We're not making ourselves smaller. We're taking up space. We're demanding credit. We're changing the world on our own terms. I looked directly at Toby Davis, who had stopped taking notes and was just staring. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, if that threatens their version of how things should be, then good. Discomfort means change is coming. The crowd was on its feet now, cheering, crying, shouting. "My name is Shanice Collins. I was the overlooked daughter, the invisible sister, the girl who didn't matter. But I'm not invisible anymore. None of us are." I walked off the stage to a 5-minute standing ovation. My phone was already buzzing with notifications. The speech was being live-streamed, shared, quoted across social media. Toby Davis approached me backstage. "Ms. Collins, I think I owe you an apology." "You think?" "I'd like to do a different story about Eden's impact, about your real work." "Talk to Marlo. She handles media now." He nodded and walked away. Victoria's attack had backfired spectacularly. Instead of destroying me, she'd given me the biggest platform I'd ever had. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Saw your speech. Powerful stuff." A friend who was once overlooked, too. Attached was a screenshot of a bank transfer. $2 million to Eden's operating fund. The memo line read, "For the invisible ones who refuse to stay hidden." Victoria had tried to bury me. Instead, she'd helped me soar. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, mixed in with grant applications and vendor invoices. My mother's handwriting on cream-colored stationery, the kind she used for thank you notes and sympathy cards. "Personal mail," Valeria said, setting it on my desk. "Looks important." I recognized the writing immediately. Neat, careful cursors that had signed permission slips and birthday cards throughout my childhood. I picked up the envelope and dropped it in the trash without opening it. "Not curious?" Marlowe asked from the doorway. "I know what it says. Some version of 'We're sorry, but you have to understand our position.' Same song, different verse. Maybe she's actually apologizing? Maybe pigs fly." But curiosity won. I fished the letter out of the trash and tore it open. "Dearest Shanice," it began, "I've watched your speech 17 times now. Each time I see more clearly how badly we failed you." I crumpled it up and tossed it back in the trash. "That was fast," Marlowe observed. "First line was enough. We failed you instead of 'I failed you.' Still can't take individual responsibility." My phone buzzed. Text from Toby. "Coffee? I have news about your sister. We met at the same cafe where Victoria had tried to threaten me." Toby looked excited, the way journalists get when they smell a big story. "Victoria pled guilty," he said without preamble. "Federal fraud charges. She's looking at 18 months minimum." "Good." "There's more. The house your parents co-signed for? Bank's foreclosing next week. They're moving in with your aunt in Florida." "Also good." "You're not curious about any of this?" "Why would I be? They made their choices. Now they're living with the consequences." Toby studied my face. Most people would feel something. Guilt, satisfaction, something. "I feel free." And I did. For the first time in my life, I felt completely, utterly free. The greenhouse dedication ceremony was scheduled for the following week. Eden's new headquarters included a state-of-the-art research facility, complete with hydroponic gardens and water purification systems. The centerpiece was a glass-walled greenhouse where we'd train the next generation of environmental advocates. "What should we call it?" Valeria asked, reviewing the dedication program. "The Victoria Room," I said. Everyone stared at me. "Not after my sister," I clarified. "Victoria means victory in Latin, victory over the systems that tried to keep us small." "I like it," Marlowe said. "Poetic justice." The dedication drew a crowd of 300, donors, community leaders, the women we'd trained and mentored. I stood at the podium, looking out at faces that had become my real family. "This greenhouse represents growth," I began. "Not just of plants, but of people, of ideas, of possibilities that seemed impossible just a few years ago." I gestured to the gleaming facility behind me. "Someone once told me I should be realistic about my dreams, that I should be grateful for whatever scraps I was given, that I should make myself smaller so others could shine brighter." The crowd was listening intently. But plants don't grow in small spaces. They need room to spread their roots, reach toward the sun, take up the space they deserve. And so do we. Applause rippled through the audience. "This room is named Victoria, not for a person, but for a principle. The victory that comes when you refuse to be diminished, when you plant yourself in good soil and grow toward your own light." After the ceremony, I walked through the greenhouse alone. The late afternoon sun streamed through the glass walls, casting everything in golden light. Young tomato plants stretched toward the ceiling. Herbs filled the air with their scent. Water trickled through the purification system I'd designed, an improved version of that high school project that started everything. "Shanice?" I turned. A young woman stood in the doorway, maybe 19, with nervous eyes and a manila folder clutched in her hands. "I'm sorry to bother you. I'm Sarah. I was hoping to apply for the mentorship program." "Of course. What's your background?" "Chemistry major. First in my family to go to college." She hesitated. "My parents think I should be more practical. Maybe switch to business or something more stable." I smiled. "Let me guess. They say you're smart, but you should be realistic about your dreams. Her eyes widened. How did you know? Lucky guess. Come on, let me show you around. We walked through the greenhouse together, talking about soil chemistry and water filtration and the intersection of environmental science and social justice. Sarah's eyes lit up as she spoke about her research ideas, her voice growing stronger with each sentence. You remind me of someone I used to know, I told her as we finished the tour. Someone good, I hope. Someone who refused to stay invisible. As Sarah left with an application packet and a reading list, I stayed in the greenhouse. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The city stretched out below us, full of people fighting their own battles, growing toward their own light. My phone buzzed. Another text from that anonymous donor. Saw the dedication coverage. Beautiful facility. The Victoria Room. Brilliant name. Here's to all the victories still to come. I typed back, thank you, for everything. The response came immediately. Thank you for showing us what's possible when we refuse to disappear. I looked around the greenhouse one more time, at the plants reaching toward the sun, at the water flowing clean and clear, at the space I'd built for dreams to grow. They'd wanted me to disappear so she could shine, but I'd risen like the sun instead, and now they had to squint just to face me. The invisible daughter was invisible no more.
The first thing my mother said when I walked through the front door wasn't, "How are you?" or "Are you okay?" It was, "You look terrible." My name is Sadie, and I was 31 years old, standing in my childhood home with 2 suitcases and an MBA degree that apparently meant nothing to the people who raised me. Thanks, Mom. Really feeling the love here. I dropped my bags by the door, the sound echoing through the pristine entryway that still smelled like the same vanilla candles from my teenage years. Audrey, my mother, crossed her arms and looked me up and down like I was a stray cat that had wandered in from the rain. Well, what did you expect? You show up here unannounced, talking about leaving your husband like it's some casual decision? Casual? The word came out sharper than I intended. Mom, he was cheating on me, with multiple women. I found the messages, the hotel receipts, Marriage is work, Sadie. She cut me off with that tone I remembered from childhood, the one that made me feel about 3 inches tall. You don't just run away when things get difficult. My father appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. Titus had always been the softer parent, but even his smile seemed strained. Hey, sweetheart, we're glad you're safe. Are we? Audrey shot him a look that could freeze hell over. Of course we are. His voice was gentle but weak, like he was trying to convince himself as much as me. You know you always have a place here. I wanted to hug him, but something in the air felt wrong. Cold, like I was an inconvenience rather than their daughter coming home after the worst months of my life. Where's Autumn? I asked, looking around for my younger sister. She's at David's, Mum said, her voice immediately warming. Planning their engagement party, such a lovely boy. His family owns 3 car dealerships, you know. Of course they did, and of course Mum's tone changed completely when talking about my sister's perfect relationship with her perfect fiancé. That's nice, I managed. It is nice, Audrey continued. It's what happens when a woman knows how to keep a man happy, when she understands that marriage requires sacrifice and compromise. The words hit like a slap. I stared at her, waiting for Dad to say something, anything, to defend me. He just stood there, wringing that dish towel like his life depended on it. I tried to keep him happy, Mum. For 8 years I tried. I cooked his favourite meals. I supported his career moves. I even co-signed loans when his credit was... I stopped myself. Some things weren't worth explaining to people who'd already made up their minds. And look where that got you, she said. Divorced at 31 with no children and no prospects. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the grandfather clock in the hallway ticking, marking each second of my humiliation. I have prospects, I said quietly. I have my degree, my career, my settlement. Your settlement? Audrey laughed, but there was no humour in it. Money you took from a man you promised to love and honour. How noble. That's when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Autumn appeared, all blonde hair and satisfied smile, looking like she'd just stepped out of a magazine. She was 3 years younger, but had always been the favourite, the one who did everything right. "Oh, you're here." She looked me over with barely concealed amusement. "Mom told me about the divorce. That's rough." "Thanks for the sympathy," I said. She shrugged. "I mean, at least Caden won't have to start over with nothing." Something cold settled in my stomach. "What do you mean?" Autumn glanced at Mom, who suddenly found the ceiling very interesting. "What do you mean, Autumn?" "Oh." Her smile widened. "You don't know yet. Mom and Dad helped him out. You know, since the divorce left him in such a tough spot, they gave him some of your old stuff. The furniture from your apartment, your electronics, some other things, just to help him get back on his feet." The room started spinning. "My stuff? Well, it was just sitting in storage," Dad said weakly, "and he seemed so lost, and we thought, you gave my belongings to my cheating ex-husband." My voice was barely a whisper. "It was the Christian thing to do," Mum said, lifting her chin defiantly. "Forgiveness, Sadie. Something you might want to try." I stood there, looking at the three of them, and something inside me shifted. Something fundamental and irreversible. "Where is he now?" I asked. "Who, Caden?" Autumn's eyes lit up with malicious glee. "Oh, he's coming to dinner tomorrow night. Mum invited him. She thought it might help with the healing process." The healing process. Right. I picked up my suitcases and headed toward the stairs. "Where are you going?" Mum called after me. "To my room," I said without turning around. "I need to make some phone calls." The next evening, I walked through the front door expecting the usual quiet house. Instead, I heard laughter coming from the dining room, male laughter that made my blood run cold. I stood frozen in the entryway, listening to my ex-husband's voice mixing with my parents like some twisted family reunion. "The market's been incredible this quarter," Caden was saying. "I just closed 3 major deals." "That's wonderful, dear," Mum gushed. "You always were so driven." Dear. She called him dear. I walked slowly toward the dining room, my heels clicking on the hardwood floor. The conversation stopped when I appeared in the doorway. There he was, Caden, sitting in my childhood chair at my family's dinner table, wearing the expensive watch I'd bought him for our anniversary last year. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his smile that practiced charm that had fooled me for 8 years. "Sadie," he stood up like we were old friends meeting for coffee. "You look great." I stared at him, then at my parents, who were both avoiding eye contact. "What is this?" "Dinner," Mum said brightly, gesturing to the empty chair across from Caden. "Sit down, honey. I made your favourite pot roast." My favourite pot roast. I repeated the words slowly. For him. "Now, Sadie," Dad started, "we thought it would be good for everyone to sit down and talk things through, like adults." Adults. I looked at Caden, who was still standing there with that infuriating smile. Adults don't cheat on their wives with their secretary and their yoga instructor and that bartender from O'Malley's. Caden's smile faltered slightly. "Sadie, we've been through this. Those were misunderstandings." "Misunderstandings?" I pulled out my phone and started scrolling. "Is this a misunderstanding?" I held up a screenshot of a text message. Quote, "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. My wife thinks I'm at a client dinner." End quote. The room went silent except for the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. "Sadie," Mum said sharply, "put that away. We're trying to have a civilised conversation." "Civilised?" I laughed, but it came out harsh and bitter. "Mom, you gave away my belongings to the man who destroyed our marriage, and now you're serving him dinner in our house. What part of this is civilised?" "Those things were just collecting dust," Dad said weakly, and Caden explained about the other women. "Sometimes marriages go through rough patches." "Rough patches?" I turned to stare at him. "Dad, he emptied our joint savings account to pay for hotel rooms with other women. He told me I was crazy when I found lipstick on his collar. He made me feel like I was losing my mind for months." Marriage requires forgiveness, Mum said, her voice getting sharper. Something your generation doesn't understand. You think you can just throw away 8 years because of a few mistakes? A few mistakes? My voice was rising now. He had a whole other life. He was planning to leave me for Jessica from his office. I saw the apartment listings he saved, the engagement rings he was looking at online. Caden finally spoke up. Sadie, you're being dramatic. We could have worked through this if you'd just been willing to try counselling. I begged you to go to counselling. I slammed my hand on the table, making the wine glasses jump. For 2 years I begged you. You said therapists were for weak people who couldn't handle their own problems. Well, maybe if you'd been more supportive of my career, he said, his mask slipping. Maybe if you'd understood the pressure I was under instead of nagging me about every little thing. Every little thing? I stared at him, like asking where you were at 2 a.m, like wondering why our credit cards were maxed out on charges I didn't recognise. Enough. Mum's voice cut through the room like a knife. Both of you sit down. We're going to discuss this like rational adults. I looked around the table at all of them, my parents, who were supposed to love and protect me, sitting there like I was the problem. My ex-husband, who had systematically destroyed my self-worth for years, being welcomed like a prodigal son. You know what? I said quietly. I need some air. I walked out of the dining room, grabbed my keys from the hall table, and headed for the door. Sadie, where are you going? Dad called after me. Out, I said without turning around. Don't wait up. I sat in my car in the driveway for 10 minutes, hands shaking as I scrolled through my phone. I found what I was looking for in my saved voicemails. A message from Jessica, Caden's secretary, from 6 months ago. The one I'd saved for the divorce proceedings. Hi, this is Jessica calling for Caden. I know he's probably with his wife right now, but I wanted to confirm our weekend in Miami. I already booked the suite at the Fontainebleau like he asked. Tell him I love him and I can't wait to start our life together once he gets rid of the dead weight. Dead weight, that's what I was to them. I opened a new browser tab on my phone and typed, property lawyer near me. It was time to remind everyone exactly whose name was on the mortgage. You want to do what? Alina nearly choked on her coffee. We were sitting in a corner booth at Rosie's Diner, the same place we'd met for study sessions back in college. I want to explore my legal options regarding the house, I said, sliding a manila folder across the table. I co-signed the mortgage 8 years ago when they couldn't qualify on their own. Alina opened the folder and started reading. Her eyebrows climbed higher with each page. Sadie, this is... Wow, you're listed as a co-borrower, not just a co-signer. That means you have ownership rights. That's what I thought. I leaned back in the booth. What are my options? Well, she said, still scanning the documents, with your divorce settlement, you could potentially buy out their equity, force a sale, or... She paused, looking up at me. You could take over the mortgage payments and assume full ownership if they default. And if they can't make the payments without my income, then the house becomes yours. Alina closed the folder and stared at me. But Sadie, this is nuclear. Are you sure you want to go down this road? I thought about last night, about Caden sitting at our dinner table, being served my favourite meal while my parents treated me like the villain. They gave away my belongings to the man who cheated on me, Alina. They invited him to dinner and acted like I was the problem, my own parents. I get it, I really do. But once you start this process, there's no going back. Your relationship with them will be over. What relationship? I laughed bitterly. They made it clear where their loyalties lie. Alina nodded slowly. Okay, let me make some calls. I know a real estate attorney who specialises in this kind of thing. 2 days later, I was sitting in a law office downtown, signing papers that would change everything. The process is straightforward, the attorney explained. You'll assume the mortgage, pay off their equity at current market value, and become the sole owner. Given their financial situation, they won't be able to challenge it. How long do I have to give them notice? 30 days is standard for family situations, but legally you could do it immediately. I signed the last document and slid it across the desk. 30 days sounds fair. That afternoon, I drove to the storage facility on the outskirts of town. The unit I'd rented was filled with furniture I'd been buying piece by piece over the past week. A new couch, dining set, bedroom furniture. Everything Caden had taken, I'd replaced with better versions. Planning a fresh start? The storage manager asked as I signed for another month. Something like that, I said, pocketing the key. My phone buzzed with a text from my lawyer. Divorce settlement finalised. Caden owes you $180,000 in alimony and asset division. Court order attached. I screenshotted the message and forwarded it to Alina with a note. Phase 1 complete. She called me immediately. Holy shit, Sadie, he has to pay you how much? Turns out judges don't like it when husbands hide assets and commit adultery. Who knew? And the evidence you provided? Let's just say Jessica was very thorough in her documentation. Hotel receipts, romantic getaways, expensive gifts, all paid for with our joint credit cards. You're scary when you're focused, you know that. I'm just getting started. That evening, I walked into the house to find Mom rearranging flowers in the living room. Oh, good, you're home, she said without looking up. Caden called. He wants to take you to dinner tomorrow night. I think that's a wonderful idea. Does he now? Yes. He's really trying, Sadie. The least you could do is meet him halfway. I sat down on the couch and watched her fuss with the arrangement. Mum, what would you say if I told you Caden has to pay me $180,000? She froze. What? The divorce settlement came through today. Turns out adultery and financial fraud don't play well in court. That's impossible. Caden said you'd be lucky to get anything. I pulled out my phone and showed her the court documents. He also said those women were misunderstandings. Caden says a lot of things. Mum's face went pale as she read. This can't be right. It's very right, and it's just the beginning. What do you mean? I stood up and headed toward the stairs. Nothing you need to worry about, Mum, yet. Sadie, what are you planning? I paused on the bottom step and turned back to her. I'm planning to take control of my life, something I should have done years ago. You're scaring me. Good, I said. Maybe now you'll understand how I felt sitting at that dinner table watching you serve my cheating ex-husband like he was family. I went upstairs and called Alina. The papers are ready, she said before I could speak. Are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Okay, when do you want to do it? I looked out my bedroom window at the perfectly manicured lawn, the house that had never really felt like home. Friday night, during dinner. Sadie! They want to play happy family? Fine, let's see how happy they are when they realise whose house they're sitting in. I came home Thursday evening to find Pastor Williams sitting in our living room with my parents. The same man who'd married Caden and me 8 years ago was now here for what looked suspiciously like an intervention. Sadie, Mum's voice was artificially bright. Come sit down. Pastor Williams wanted to talk with you. The pastor stood up, his kind eyes filled with concern. Hello, Sadie. Your parents are worried about you. Are they? I remained standing by the doorway. What exactly are they worried about? Well, he cleared his throat uncomfortably. They're concerned about your spiritual well-being, about the anger you're carrying. I looked at my parents, both sitting there with their hands folded like concerned citizens. My anger. Divorce is never easy, Pastor Williams continued, but holding on to bitterness will only hurt you in the long run. Forgiveness is the path to healing. Forgiveness. I repeated the words slowly. Tell me, Pastor, what does the Bible say about adultery? He shifted uncomfortably. Well, it's certainly a sin, but... And what about lying, stealing, breaking sacred vows? Sadie, honey, Dad interrupted. We're not here to judge Caden. We're here because we love you. You love me. I walked into the room and sat down across from them. Is that why you gave my belongings to the man who cheated on me? Pastor Williams looked confused. I'm sorry, what? They gave away my furniture, my electronics, everything from my apartment to my ex-husband as a gesture of goodwill. We were trying to help both of you move forward, Mum said defensively. Sometimes sacrifice is necessary for healing. My sacrifice, I said, not his. Mine. Pastor Williams looked between us. Perhaps we should focus on forgiveness rather than dwelling on past hurts. Past hurts? I pulled out my phone. Pastor, would you like to hear the voicemail his mistress left me? The one where she talks about getting rid of the dead weight so they can start their life together? Sadie, that's enough, Dad said sharply. Or maybe you'd prefer the text messages where he called me pathetic for believing he actually loved me. Stop it, Mum hissed. This is exactly what we're talking about, this vindictive attitude. It's not becoming of a Christian woman. Pastor Williams held up his hands. Let's all take a breath here. Sadie, I understand you're hurt. I'm not hurt, Pastor. I'm done. I stood up. I'm done being told that my feelings don't matter. I'm done being told to forgive people who aren't sorry. And I'm done being lectured about Christian values by people who think loyalty means protecting the person who destroyed my marriage. That's not what we're doing, Dad said weakly. Isn't it? I turned to face him. When Caden was cheating, did you call him to discuss his spiritual well-being? When he was lying to me for months, did you arrange an intervention about his anger issues? Silence. I didn't think so. Pastor Williams cleared his throat. Sadie, I think you're missing the point. This isn't about Caden's behaviour. It's about your response to it. Revenge isn't the answer. Who said anything about revenge? Your parents are concerned about some of the things you've been saying, about taking control, about making people understand how you felt. I looked at Mum, who was staring at her hands. You told him about our conversation. We're worried about you, she said without looking up. You're not acting like yourself. You're right, I said. The old me would have sat here and nodded and apologised for being upset. The old me would have thanked you for caring enough to stage this little meeting. And what about the new you? Pastor Williams asked gently. The new me has learned that sometimes people show you exactly who they are and you should believe them. I walked toward the stairs, then stopped and turned back. Pastor Williams, I have a question for you. If someone breaks into your house and steals your belongings, and then your neighbours invite the thief over for dinner and give him more of your stuff, what would you call that? That's not the same situation, Sadie, isn't it? I looked at each of them, because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly the same. You're being dramatic, Mum said. Marriage is different. There are expectations, responsibilities. Like fidelity, like honesty, like not emptying joint bank accounts to pay for affairs. Like forgiveness, she snapped, like putting your family first instead of your pride. My family, I laughed. Right, my family who invited my cheating ex-husband to dinner, my family who gave away my belongings without asking, my family who thinks I'm the problem here. I started up the stairs again. Where are you going? Dad called. To make some phone calls, I said. Don't worry about me, though. I'm sure you have more important things to discuss, like how to help Caden through this difficult time. I heard Pastor Williams say something about prayer and healing as I closed my bedroom door. I sat on my bed and called Alina. How did it go? She asked. They brought in a pastor to convince me to forgive and forget. Seriously. Dead serious. They're more concerned about my vindictive attitude than they are about what Caden did to me. Are you having second thoughts? I looked around my childhood bedroom, at the family photos on the dresser, at the life I'd tried so hard to fit back into. Not even close. Tomorrow night can't come fast enough. Friday morning, I started small. I replaced the coffee maker with a newer model and moved their old one to a box in the garage. When Mum came downstairs, she stared at it for a full minute. Where did this come from? I bought it, I said, pouring myself a cup. The old one was making weird noises. I liked the old one. The old one was 15 years old and barely worked. I handed her a mug. This one has a timer and makes better coffee. She took a sip, clearly wanting to complain but unable to argue with the taste. By noon, I'd replaced the living room curtains with ones that actually matched the furniture. Dad noticed immediately when he came home for lunch. The windows looked different. New curtains, I said from the kitchen. The old ones were faded. Your mother picked those out? 20 years ago. I walked into the living room with a sandwich. These let in more light. He stood there looking confused, like he couldn't quite put his finger on what was bothering him. After they left for their afternoon errands, I got to work. I went through the house systematically, boxing up their personal items, photo albums, Mum's collection of ceramic angels, Dad's golf trophies. Nothing valuable or necessary, just sentimental things. I labelled each box with dates and stored them neatly in the basement. When they came home, Mum went straight to the mantelpiece. "Where are my angels?" "I packed them up," I said casually. "I thought you might want to keep them safe while I'm staying here. You know how clumsy I can be." "But I like having them out." "They'll be safer in storage, trust me." She looked around the room, noticing other small changes. The throw pillows I'd replaced, the lamp I'd moved, the coffee table books I'd swapped out. "What are you doing, Sadie?" "Just tidying up, making the place feel more organised." Dad appeared from his study. "Someone moved my golf magazines." "I put them in a box in your closet," I said. "They were cluttering up the coffee table." "I was reading those." "They're from 2019, Dad. I doubt the tips are still relevant." He stood there, opening and closing his mouth like a fish, clearly frustrated but unable to articulate why. That afternoon, Autumn showed up with her fiancé, David. She took one look around and frowned. "Something's different in here." "Sadie's been redecorating," Mum said, her voice tight with irritation. "It looks nice," David said politely. "Very clean." Autumn shot him a look, then turned to me. "Where's the family photo from the mantel?" "Which one?" "You know which one, the big one from Christmas 2 years ago." "Oh, that one. I put it somewhere safe. The frame was getting dusty." "I want it back out." "Why? It's not going anywhere." She stared at me for a long moment. "You're acting weird." "I'm acting organised." "No, you're acting like—" She paused, searching for the right words. "Like you own the place or something." I smiled. "I'm just trying to help out while I'm here." "Well, stop helping. Everything feels wrong now." "Wrong how?" "I don't know. It just does." She looked around the room again. "It doesn't feel like home anymore." "Maybe that's because you don't live here anymore," I said. "You have your own place with David." "That's not the point." "Then what is the point, Autumn?" She glared at me. "The point is that this is Mom and Dad's house, and you're changing things without asking." "I'm improving things." "You're being controlling." I laughed. "Controlling?" "I replaced some curtains and organised some clutter. How is that controlling?" "Because it's not your house." The room went dead silent. Mum and Dad exchanged glances. David looked like he wanted to disappear. "You're right," I said finally. "It's not my house. Yet." "What does that mean?" Autumn's voice was sharp. "Nothing you need to worry about." "Stop saying that! Stop being so cryptic and weird." I stood up and walked toward the kitchen. "I'm making dinner. Caden's coming tonight, right, Mum?" "Yes," Mum said slowly. "He'll be here at 6. "Perfect. I'll make something special." I spent the rest of the afternoon in the kitchen preparing what would be the last meal I'd ever cook in this house as their daughter. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, all of Caden's favourites according to Mum. At 5:30 I went upstairs and changed into my best dress, the red one that Caden always said made me look too confident. I did my makeup carefully, styled my hair, and put on the diamond earrings from my divorce settlement. When I came downstairs, Dad whistled. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." "Thank you." Are you hoping to reconcile with Caden?" Mum asked hopefully. I checked my watch. "We'll see what the evening brings." The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock. "I'll get it," I said, walking to the front door. Caden stood there with flowers and that charming smile that used to make my heart race. Now it just made me feel cold. "Sadie, you look incredible." "Thank you. Come in. We have so much to discuss." He followed me into the dining room where my parents were already seated. The table was set with Mum's best china, candles flickering, wine already poured. "This is lovely," Caden said, taking his usual seat. I sat down across from him and raised my glass. "To new beginnings." Everyone raised their glasses, smiling like we were celebrating something wonderful. If only they knew what was coming. We were halfway through dinner when I excused myself. "I'll be right back. I just need to get something from upstairs." I walked calmly to my room and picked up the manila envelope I'd placed on my dresser that morning. Inside were the property deed, mortgage documents, and a 30-day eviction notice, all notarized and legal. When I returned to the dining room, they were laughing about something Caden had said. Mum was refilling his wineglass like he was an honoured guest instead of the man who destroyed her daughter's marriage. "Sorry about that," I said, sitting back down. I placed the envelope on the table next to my plate. "What's that?" Dad asked. "Just some paperwork, nothing urgent." I took a bite of pot roast. "This came out well, don't you think?" "It's delicious," Caden said. "You always were an amazing cook, Sadie." "Was I? I seem to remember you preferring Jessica's cooking. Or was it the bartender from O'Malley's? I lose track." The smile faltered on his face. "Sadie, we agreed to move past all that." "Did we? When did we agree to that?" Mum cleared her throat. "Let's keep this pleasant, shall we?" "Of course." I reached for the envelope. "Actually, since we're all here together, there's something I need to share with everyone." I pulled out the documents and placed them in the centre of the table. "What is this?" Dad picked up the top paper, squinting at the legal text. "That's the deed to this house," I said calmly, "with my name on it. As of this afternoon, I'm the sole owner." The silence that followed was deafening. You could have heard a pin drop. Mum grabbed the paper from Dad's hands. "This is impossible. Actually, it's completely legal. I co-signed the mortgage 8 years ago, remember? When your credit wasn't good enough to qualify on your own." "But that doesn't mean," Dad started. "It means I had ownership rights. And with my divorce settlement, I was able to buy out your equity and assume full ownership." I took another sip of wine. "The paperwork was finalised this afternoon." Caden leaned forward, studying the documents. "This is some kind of joke, right?" I pulled out the second set of papers. "This is your 30-day eviction notice. You have until the end of the month to find new accommodations." Mum's face had gone completely white. "You can't do this." "I can, and I have." "But this is our home," Dad whispered. "Was your home. Now it's mine." Caden suddenly laughed. "This is rich, Sadie, really rich, but you'll regret this once we challenge it legally. There's no way this will hold up in court." I reached into my purse and pulled out a small digital recorder. I pressed play. Caden's voice filled the room. "Maybe if you'd been more supportive of my career, maybe if you'd understood the pressure I was under instead of nagging me about every little thing." Then my voice. "Every little thing? Like asking where you were at 2 a.m? I stopped the recording. "That's from Tuesday night, when you were here for dinner, blaming me for our marriage falling apart." His face had gone pale. "You recorded us?" "I've been recording everything since I got back. Every conversation, every insult, every time you or my parents made me feel like garbage for leaving a cheating husband." I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the files. "Would you like to hear the one where Mum tells Pastor Williams that I'm being vindictive for not forgiving you? Or maybe the one where Autumn says I'm acting like I own the place?" "You can't use those," Caden said, but his voice was shaky now. "Actually, I can. This is a one-party consent state. As long as I'm part of the conversation, I can record it legally." Mum finally found her voice. "Sadie, you're our daughter. How can you do this to us?" "How can I do this?" I set down my fork and looked at each of them. "Let me ask you something. When Caden was cheating on me, did any of you call him to express your disappointment?" Silence. "When he emptied our savings account to pay for hotel rooms with other women, did you stage an intervention about his financial irresponsibility?" More silence. "When he made me feel crazy for months, gaslighting me about his affairs, did you bring in Pastor Williams to discuss his spiritual well-being?" Dad opened his mouth, then closed it. "But when I finally left him, when I finally stood up for myself, suddenly I'm the problem. Suddenly I need counselling and prayer and lectures about forgiveness." "That's different," Mum said weakly. How? How is it different? Because you're our daughter and we expect better from you. I stared at her. You expect better from me than you do from the man who destroyed my marriage? We expect you to be the bigger person. The bigger person? I nodded slowly. Right, well here I am being the bigger person. I'm giving you 30 days' notice instead of having you removed immediately. Caden slammed his hand on the table. This is insane, Sadie. You can't just steal your parents' house. I'm not stealing anything. I'm reclaiming what was legally mine all along. Your own parents, Sadie, your own family. I looked around the table at the three of them. My family gave away my belongings to my cheating ex-husband. My family invited that same man to dinner and treated him like a hero. My family made me feel like I was the villain for refusing to forgive someone who wasn't sorry. I stood up and smoothed down my dress. You said I didn't deserve a fresh start, Mum, so now I'm giving you one, all three of you. Sadie, please, Dad said, his voice breaking. We can work this out. No, Dad, we can't, because this isn't about the house. This is about respect, and you've made it very clear that I don't have yours. I picked up my purse and headed for the door. Where are you going? Mum called after me. Out, don't wait up, and don't forget to start packing. By Monday morning, the whole neighbourhood knew. I could see the curtains twitching as I walked to my car, could hear the whispered conversations that stopped when I got too close. Mrs. Patterson from next door cornered me at the mailbox. Sadie, dear, is it true about your parents? Is what true? That they have to move? I smiled politely. I'm sure they'll find something lovely. She looked scandalised. But this is their home. They've lived here for 25 years. And now it's time for a change. I got in my car and drove away, leaving her standing there with her mouth open. My phone had been ringing non-stop since Saturday. Autumn called 6 times before I finally answered. Are you completely insane? She screamed before I could say hello. Good morning to you too, sister. Don't you dare act casual with me. Do you have any idea what you've done? I've reclaimed my property. What's the problem? The problem is that Mum hasn't stopped crying since Friday night. The problem is that Dad looks like he's aged 10 years. The problem is that David's parents are asking questions about our family drama. Ah, there it is. You're worried about how this looks to your future in-laws. Of course I'm worried. They're already concerned about David marrying into a family with a messy divorce, and now this. They think we're all crazy. Maybe you should have thought about that before you helped humiliate me at dinner last week. I didn't humiliate you. No? What would you call telling me that at least Caden wouldn't have to start over with nothing? Silence on the other end. That's what I thought. Sadie, please, you have to stop this. We can work something out. There's nothing to work out. I gave them 30 days. That's more than generous. But where will they go? They can't afford rent on Dad's pension. That's not my problem anymore. She hung up on me. Tuesday afternoon, I was coming out of the grocery store when I saw a familiar figure leaning against my car. Jet Mackenzie looked exactly the same as he had 5 years ago when we'd worked together at the marketing firm. Tall, dark hair, easy smile that had always made my stomach flutter. Well, well, Sadie McBride. Jet, what are you doing here? I heard through the grapevine that you were back in town. Thought I'd say hello. The grapevine? He grinned. Small town, big gossip. Word is you've caused quite a stir. People talk too much. They do, but in this case I have to say I'm impressed. I raised an eyebrow. Impressed? I remember how your family treated you back when we were dating, always making you feel like you weren't good enough, like you should be grateful for whatever scraps of attention they threw your way. We weren't dating. We went out twice. 3 times, and I wanted it to be more, but you said your family wouldn't approve of you dating a contractor. The memory hit me like a punch. He was right. I'd liked him, really liked him, but Mum had made it clear that blue-collar work wasn't suitable for someone with my education. That was a long time ago, I said. It was, but I'm glad to see you finally standing up for yourself. You don't even know what happened. I know enough. I know your ex-husband was a piece of work, and I know your family threw you under the bus when you needed them most. He pushed off from my car and stepped closer. I also know you're probably going to need some work done on that house once you get rid of the current occupants. Are you offering your services? I'm offering whatever you need. Renovation, demolition, a friendly ear, whatever helps you move forward. Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Sadie, this is Marcus Webb from Webb & Associates. I represent your ex-husband. I put the call on speaker so Jet could hear. What can I do for you, Marcus? My client would like to discuss a settlement regarding the recent property acquisition. What kind of settlement? He's prepared to offer you $50,000 to reverse the eviction and return the house to your parents. I looked at Jet, who was shaking his head and grinning. That's very generous of him, but I'm not interested. Perhaps we could discuss this in person. My client feels there may have been some misunderstanding about the legality of your actions. There's no misunderstanding. Everything was done through proper legal channels. Nevertheless, we'd like to review the documentation. Sometimes these rushed property transfers have irregularities. Are you threatening me, Marcus? Not at all. We're simply exploring all available options to resolve this amicably. Here's an option for you. Tell Caden that if he contacts me again or tries to intimidate me legally, I'll be happy to share those recordings with his employer. I'm sure they'd be very interested to hear how he talks about his business expenses. I'm not sure what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Have a good day, Marcus. I hung up and looked at Jet. Well, that was fun. He's scared. Good, he should be. What recordings? I told him about the dinner, about everything I'd captured on tape. By the time I finished, he was laughing. You're diabolical, I love it. I'm practical. You're amazing. He stepped closer again. And you're finally free to make your own choices. Jet! I'm not asking for anything, Sadie. I'm just saying that when you're ready, when all this settles down, maybe we could try those dates again, without worrying about what anyone else thinks. Before I could answer, another car pulled into the parking lot. Autumn got out, her face red with fury. There you are, I've been looking everywhere for you. What now, Autumn? Mum's in the hospital. My stomach dropped. What happened? She collapsed this morning. The doctor says it's stress-related, but she's asking for you. I looked at Jet, then back at my sister. Which hospital? St. Mary's, room 314. She grabbed my arm. Sadie, please, whatever you think of us, she's still our mother. I pulled away from her grip. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She nodded and got back in her car. Jet touched my shoulder. You okay? I'm fine. You sure? I watched Autumn drive away, then looked back at him. Ask me again in a few days. Mum looked smaller in the hospital bed, her face pale against the white pillows. Dad sat beside her, holding her hand. They both looked up when I walked in. Sadie, Mum whispered, you came. Of course I came. I stood at the foot of the bed, keeping my distance. How are you feeling? Like my world is falling apart. The doctor says it's stress, Dad said quietly. Her blood pressure spiked. They want to keep her overnight for observation. I nodded. That's probably wise. Sadie, Mum's voice was weak but urgent. We need to talk about the house. There's nothing to talk about. You have 3 weeks left. But where will we go? We can't afford... Mum, stop. I held up my hand. You made your choice when you invited Caden to dinner. You made your choice when you gave away my belongings. You made your choice when you brought in Pastor Williams to tell me I was the problem. We were trying to help you. No, you were trying to control me, just like you always have. Dad cleared his throat. Sadie, your mother's health... Don't. I turned to face him. Don't you dare try to guilt me with her health. Where was your concern for my mental health when Caden was destroying me? Where was your worry when I was having panic attacks because I thought I was losing my mind? That's different, Mum said weakly. How? How is it different? She couldn't answer. Autumn appeared in the doorway. The nurses said visiting hours are almost over. Good timing, I said. I was just leaving. Sadie, wait! Mum struggled to sit up. Please, we're family. I stopped at the door and turned back. Family doesn't choose the person who hurt you over you. Family doesn't humiliate you when you're already broken. Family doesn't make you feel like you're crazy for having standards. We love you, Dad said desperately. No, you love the idea of me, the version that does what you want, forgives who you tell me to forgive, and never causes problems. I looked at each of them, but that person is gone. I walked out of the hospital and drove straight home. My home. The next morning, I found Caden sitting on my front porch. We need to talk, he said, standing up as I approached. No, we don't. I walked past him to unlock the door. Sadie, this has gone far enough. Your mother's in the hospital because of what you're doing. I turned around slowly. My mother is in the hospital because she can't handle the consequences of her choices, just like you couldn't handle the consequences of yours. I made mistakes, okay? I admit that, but this is insane. You're destroying your entire family over some hurt feelings. Hurt feelings? I laughed. Caden, you had multiple affairs. You emptied our savings. You made me feel like I was losing my mind for months. And when I finally left you, my family welcomed you with open arms and treated me like the villain. They were trying to help us reconcile. They were helping you manipulate me, again. He stepped closer, and I saw a flash of the old Caden, the one who used charm to get what he wanted. Look, I know I screwed up, but we could try again. We could make it work this time. Are you serious right now? I'm saying I miss you. I miss us. You miss having someone to control, someone to blame when your life doesn't go perfectly. That's not true. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. His voice filled the air. Maybe if you'd been more supportive of my career, maybe if you'd understood the pressure I was under, instead of nagging me about every little thing. You recorded that? I record everything now. It's amazing how different conversations sound when you can play them back. His face hardened. You're sick, you know that? This whole revenge fantasy is sick. It's not revenge, Caden. It's consequences, something you've never had to face before. I'll fight this. The house, the recordings, all of it. I'll take you to court. Please do. I'd love for a judge to hear you explain why you think you deserve my parents' house more than I do. He stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked away. That afternoon, the movers came. I watched from the window as they loaded my parents' belongings into a truck. Dad supervised while Mum sat in their car, refusing to look at the house. Autumn knocked on my door as the truck pulled away. Are you happy now? She asked when I opened it. I'm satisfied. They found a small apartment across town, 1 bedroom. Dad's selling his golf clubs to afford the deposit. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Are you really? I looked at her for a moment. Autumn, do you remember when I graduated with my MBA? When I got my first promotion? When I bought my first car? What does that have to do with anything? Do you remember Mum and Dad being proud of me, celebrating with me, making me feel like I'd accomplished something worthwhile? She was quiet, because I don't. I remember being told I was too ambitious, too independent, too focused on my career. I remember being told that none of it mattered if I couldn't keep a husband happy. That's not. It is, and you know it. I stepped back from the door. I spent 31 years trying to earn their approval, their love, their respect. I'm done. So that's it. You're just cutting us all off. I'm choosing myself for the first time in my life. She shook her head and walked away. I closed the door and looked around my house, my space, my choice. I walked to the kitchen and opened my laptop. I'd been writing anonymously online, sharing my story in pieces across different forums. The responses had been overwhelming. Hundreds of women telling me I was brave, that I'd inspired them to stand up for themselves, that they wished they had my courage. I opened a new document and started typing. They said I didn't deserve love, but they were wrong. I just didn't need to earn it by suffering anymore. I hit publish and closed the laptop. My phone buzzed with a text from Jet. "How are you holding up?" I typed back, "Better than expected. Want to help me pick out new furniture this weekend?" "Thought you'd never ask." I smiled and put the phone down. For the first time in years, maybe ever, I felt completely at peace. Outside, the sun was setting over the neighbourhood where I'd grown up feeling like I was never quite enough. Now it was setting over my home, where I was exactly who I needed to be. I poured myself a glass of wine and walked out to the back porch. The garden needed work, the fence needed painting, and the whole place needed my personal touch. But it was mine. Every imperfection, every possibility, every choice going forward. And that was enough. The acceptance letter felt like silk between my fingers. Northwestern University School of Medicine. Full acceptance. I'd read it 17 times already, but the words still made my chest tight with something I'd never felt before. Pure, unfiltered hope. My name is Tessa, and at 16 I thought I had my whole life mapped out. 4 years of pre-med, then medical school, then maybe paediatric surgery. I'd been planning this since I was 12 and watched my neighbour's kid survive leukemia. The doctors who saved him became my heroes. Now I was going to be one of them. I clutched the letter and bounded down the stairs, ready to show Mom. She was in the kitchen with Aunt Daphne, their voices sharp and hushed. I paused at the doorway. 30,000, Angela! That's what the surgeon quoted. I know how much it costs, Mum snapped, but where am I supposed to get that kind of money? From Tessa's college fund. You said there was 45,000 in there. My stomach dropped. I pressed myself against the wall, letter crumpling in my suddenly sweaty palm. That money is for her education. And this is for Alana's future, Daphne shot back. Do you see her Instagram? She's got 12,000 followers already. With the right nose and maybe some lip work, she could be the next big influencer. We're talking about real money here, Angela. Life-changing money. Tessa got into Northwestern. Tessa's smart. She'll figure it out. She'll get scholarships or loans or whatever smart kids do. But Alana, this is her one shot. You know she's not exactly academic. I wanted to burst in there. I wanted to scream that I'd worked my ass off for 4 years, that I'd studied while Alana was at parties, that I'd earned this. Instead, I stood frozen, listening to them discuss my future like it was a stock they could trade. The surgery is scheduled for next week, Daphne continued. The surgeon needs payment up front. I can't just... You can, and you will, because if you don't, I'll tell Flynn about Marcus. The kitchen went dead silent. Even I held my breath. You wouldn't? Try me, Mum's voice came out strangled. That was 15 years ago. And it would still destroy your marriage. Your choice, Angela. Help your niece secure her future or watch your own world burn. I heard Mum's chair scrape against the floor. Fine, I'll transfer the money tomorrow. My legs gave out. I slid down the wall, letter falling from my numb fingers. $45,000. My entire college fund. Gone. For Alana's nose job. I don't know how long I sat there before Mum found me. Tessa, what are you doing on the floor? I looked up at her, this woman who'd raised me, who'd helped me with homework and driven me to debate tournaments. I got into Northwestern. Her face went white. Honey, I heard everything. I stood up, legs shaking. You're giving my college money to Alana for plastic surgery. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. I picked up the letter, smoothing out the wrinkles. I worked for this. I earned this. And you're throwing it away so your niece can take prettier selfies. Tessa, you don't understand. Alana has opportunities. I had opportunities. The words exploded out of me. I had a future. I had plans. Mum's face hardened. You're not the pretty one, Tessa. Alana has a real shot at something big. You'll understand when you're older. The words hit me like a physical blow, not the pretty one, as if that was all that mattered, as if my grades, my dreams, my 4 years of perfect attendance and honour roll meant nothing compared to Alana's cheekbones. "You'll find another way," Mum continued, her voice gentler now, like she was talking to a child having a tantrum. "You're smart. You'll get scholarships." I already applied for scholarships. This was my backup plan. This was supposed to be my safety net. "Well, now you'll have to work harder." I stared at her, this stranger wearing my mother's face. "I see." That night, I locked my bedroom door and cried until my throat was raw. Then I got angry. Then I got quiet. The dangerous kind of quiet. I found the college savings booklet in Mum's desk drawer. Account balance, $127.43. She'd already transferred the rest. Sitting on my bedroom floor, holding that nearly empty book, I made myself a promise. Someday I'd be richer than all of them. Someday they'd come knocking on my door instead. And when that day came, I'd remember exactly how it felt to be worth less than my cousin's nose. The community college library closed at midnight, but the janitor, Marcus, let me stay until 2 a.m. if I helped him empty the trash cans. Small price to pay for a warm place to study and sleep. "You're here again?" Peyton dropped into the chair across from me, her backpack hitting the table with a thud. Dark circles under her eyes matched mine perfectly. "Where else would I be?" I didn't look up from my organic chemistry textbook. "You?" "Double shift at the diner ended at 11. Figured I'd get some studying done before I crash in my car." That made me look up. "Your car? Roommate brought her boyfriend home. Again, they're loud." Peyton shrugged, like sleeping in a Honda Civic was no big deal. "What's your excuse for living here?" "Family issues." She laughed, but there was no humour in it. "Join the club." We studied in comfortable silence until Marcus appeared with his cart. "Ladies, you know the drill." I grabbed a trash bag. Peyton took another. We worked our way through the stacks, collecting crumpled papers and empty coffee cups. "So what's your major?" Peyton asked. "Pre-med. You?" "Same. Want to be a paediatrician?" "Surgeon for me." "Fancy?" "Not really. Just stubborn." She grinned. I like stubborn. That was the beginning of our friendship. 2 broke girls with big dreams, surviving on vending machine dinners and spite. My phone buzzed during our study session the next week. Instagram notification. Alana had posted again. The photo showed her new nose from 3 different angles. Caption: "New face, new me, so grateful for family who believe in my dreams. Our blessed art new beginnings, us influencer life." 12,000 likes already. "You okay?" Peyton glanced at my phone. "You look like you want to murder someone." "My cousin, she got plastic surgery with money that was supposed to pay for my college." "Jesus, that's fucked up." "Yeah, well, she's the pretty one." I made air quotes. "Apparently, that matters more than grades." Peyton was quiet for a moment. "My mum spent my college fund on her boyfriend's truck. Said education was wasted on girls anyway." "Seriously?" "Dead serious. That's why I'm here instead of state." We went back to studying, but something had shifted. We weren't just study partners anymore. We were survivors. The months blurred together. Work, school, sleep, when I could get it. I picked up a second job at a medical supply company, filing paperwork for $8 an hour. My supervisor, Dr. Kim, noticed I was reading medical journals during breaks. "You're pre-med?" "Yes, Ma'am." "Good. We need more doctors who understand what it's like to struggle." She started giving me extra responsibilities. Nothing major, just organising inventory and updating patient databases. But I was learning the business side of medicine, seeing how hospitals operated beyond the emergency room drama on TV. Meanwhile, Alana's Instagram exploded. 20,000 followers, brand partnerships with skincare companies, photos from Cabo, Milan, some influencer conference in Vegas, all funded by my future. Look at this shit. I showed Peyton a sponsored post. Alana holding some anti-aging serum, claiming it was her secret to flawless skin. She's literally 18, Peyton said. 18 with a $30,000 nose. You're going to be a doctor, though. She's going to be... what? A walking advertisement? A rich walking advertisement. But I was wrong about that. 3 years later, I was finishing my bachelor's degree and working full-time at a telehealth startup. Peyton had transferred to state on a partial scholarship. We still texted daily, comparing war stories from our respective battles. My phone rang during a late-night coding session. Forbes magazine. Ms. Tessa, we're doing a feature on young entrepreneurs in healthcare tech. Your company's growth has been remarkable. Thank you. Some are calling you an overnight success. How does that feel? I laughed. Actually laughed. Overnight success. I've been sleeping on library floors and working 3 jobs for the past 6 years. If this is overnight, it's the longest night in history. That's a great quote. Can we use that? Sure, but add this. Overnights take years when nobody helps you. After I hung up, I pulled up Alana's Instagram. Her follower count had plateaued around 30,000. Her last few posts had maybe 100 likes each. The brand partnerships had dried up. Her bio now read, lifestyle blogger, DM for collabs. The comments on her recent photos were brutal. Fake? Try hard? Who is this? I closed the app and went back to work. My company was about to close a deal with 3 major hospital systems. Real money, life-changing money. Funny how things work out. The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing acquisition papers. My assistant knocked and peeked in. There's a Greta Howard online too. Says she's an old friend. Greta. I hadn't heard that name in years. We'd been inseparable in middle school before her family moved to Oregon. Tessa, holy shit, I can't believe I found you. Greta, how did you... Forbes article, Healthcare Tech's Rising Star. I saw your picture and nearly choked on my coffee. You look exactly the same, just... richer. I laughed despite myself. What's up? You calling to hit me up for money? Actually, I'm calling with gossip. I'm back in town, working as a real estate agent. Guess whose house just hit the foreclosure list? My pen stopped moving. Who? Your mum's 412 Lily Lane Drive. Apparently they're 3 months behind on property taxes and defaulted on a second mortgage. Bank's seizing it next month. I set the pen down carefully. You're sure? Positive. I handle foreclosures for First National. Your mum tried to get an extension, but... Greta paused. Tessa, they owe $87,000, between back taxes and the mortgage they took out 2 years ago. What was the mortgage for? Doesn't say, but I can guess. Your cousin's been posting about her business ventures on Facebook, some kind of lifestyle brand that went nowhere. After we hung up, I sat staring at my computer screen. Then I opened a new browser window and searched for 412 Lily Lane Drive. There it was, my childhood home, the house where I'd carved my initials into the closet beam in my bedroom, where I'd hidden my diary under a loose floorboard, where my mother had chosen my cousin's face over my future. The listing price was $95,000, cash offers preferred. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. Richard, I need you to set up an LLC, something generic, Midwest Property Holdings or whatever. I want to make a real estate purchase, and I don't want my name anywhere near it. How much are we talking? $110,000. Cash offer. I want this done fast and clean. When do you need this? Yesterday. The paperwork took 3 days. By Friday, Midwest Property Holdings had made an offer. By Monday, it was accepted. I drove to Lily Lane Drive that evening, parking 2 blocks away. The foreclosure sign was still up, but there was a bright red sold sticker across it. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The paint was peeling, and Mum's flower beds were overgrown with weeds. Dad's old basketball hoop hung at a sad angle, the net long gone. I walked around back. The spare key was still under the fake rock by the garden hose. Inside, everything was exactly the same. Same ugly brown carpet. Same kitchen wallpaper with the tiny roosters. Same family photos on the mantel, including several of Alana at various influencer events, her surgically perfected nose prominent in every shot. I climbed the stairs to my old room. The door creaked the same way it always had. My bed was gone, replaced by boxes of Alana's failed merchandise. Alana Lifestyle branded water bottles, phone cases, and what looked like 1,000 unsold calendars featuring her posing in bikinis. But the closet was still there. I knelt down and ran my fingers along the baseboard until I found the loose board. It popped up easily, revealing the small space I'd used to hide things from my family. My old diary was still there, along with some photos and a folded piece of paper. I opened it. I will never forget what they did to me. Someday, I'll make them pay. TY, age 16. I'd written it the night after Mum gave away my college fund. My handwriting was messier then, angry and desperate. I folded the note and put it back, then replaced the floorboard. On my way out, I stopped at the kitchen table where I'd done homework for 12 years. There was a stack of mail, mostly bills and collection notices. One envelope caught my eye. It was addressed to Angela Young, but the return address was from Northwestern University Alumni Association. I opened it. Dear Angela, we hope this letter finds you well. As the mother of one of our most distinguished graduates, we wanted to invite you to our annual Donor Appreciation Gala. They thought I'd graduated from Northwestern. They thought my mother had supported my education. I left the letter on the table and walked out. My phone buzzed as I got back to my car. Text from an unknown number. Hi, this is Angela Young. I got your number from the real estate agent. I understand you bought our house. We're wondering if we could work out some kind of arrangement to stay until we get back on our feet. We're family people going through a hard time. Please call me. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, Help is coming. I hit send and drove home to my penthouse, already planning my next move. The locksmith arrived at 412 Lily Lane Drive at 7 a.m. sharp. Professional, discreet and expensive. Exactly what I needed. You want all the locks changed? He examined the front door. Deadbolts too. Everything. And I want a security system installed. Cameras, motion sensors, the works. This your new place? Something like that. While he worked, I called the utility companies. Gas, electric, water, internet, everything transferred to Midwest Property Holdings. By noon, I owned every inch of that house inside and out. Greta met me there with a stack of papers. Eviction notices are ready, she said, handing me the folder. Legally, they have 30 days once these are served. What if they don't leave? Sheriff's Department handles that. But Tessa... She looked around the living room, taking in the family photos and my mother's collection of ceramic angels. Are you sure about this? I mean, it's your family. They made their choice 16 years ago. My phone buzzed. Facebook notification. I'd started following my family's social media accounts through a fake profile, watching their lives unravel in real time. Mom had posted in a local community group, Urgent, family of 4 needs temporary housing. We're good people who've fallen on hard times, clean, quiet, no pets, can provide references. Please share. The comments were a mix of sympathy and suggestions for homeless shelters. Aunt Daphne had shared the post with crying face emojis, but it was Alana's recent activity that really caught my attention. Her Instagram story showed her crying in a car, mascara streaked down her cheeks. I can't believe this is happening, she sobbed into her phone camera. We might be homeless. My family works so hard to support my dreams, and now I feel so guilty, like this is all my fault. The The next slide was a GoFundMe link. Help the young family stay together with a goal of $50,000. Raised so far, $237. I screenshotted everything. What's so funny? Greta asked. My cousin just started a GoFundMe to save the house I already bought. Jesus, that's dark, even for you. The security company arrived while we were still there. Professional installation, top-of-the-line equipment. I wanted to see everything, every room, every entrance, every moment of what was about to happen. Motion sensors in all common areas, the technician explained, showing me the app on my phone. Cameras here, here, and here. You'll get alerts for any activity. What about audio? We can do that, but it's extra. And depending on your state laws, I don't need audio, just video. By evening, the house was mine in every way that mattered. New locks, new security system, utilities in my name. I sat in my car across the street, watching the windows glow with warm light. Dad was probably watching TV in his recliner. Mum was likely in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner. They had no idea their world was about to collapse. My phone rang. Mum again. Hello? This is Angela Young. I texted you yesterday about the house. I remember. We really need to talk. We've been living here for 23 years. This is our home. Our whole life is here. I understand. So you'll work with us? Maybe we could rent it back from you? We're good tenants, I promise. We take care of the property. I looked at the peeling paint and overgrown yard. I can see that. We just need time to get back on our feet. My daughter's trying to rebuild her business, and my husband's looking for work. What happened to the money? Silence. The mortgage you took out 2 years ago, $50,000. Where did that go? How do you know about that? Public records, so where did it go? More silence. Then, my niece had some business opportunities, investments that didn't pan out. Your niece? Yes, but she's family. We help family. Do you? Of course we do. That's what families are for. I hung up and opened my laptop. A few clicks brought up the eviction notice template Greta had sent me. I filled in the details, printed 30 copies, and drove back to Lily Lane Drive. The house was dark now except for the porch light. I walked up the familiar path, past Mum's dying rose bushes, and slipped the notice under the front door. 30 days. They had 30 days to figure out what I'd spent 16 years learning, that sometimes the people who are supposed to help you are the ones who hurt you most. My phone buzzed with a security alert. Motion detected at front door. I watched the grainy footage of myself walking away, a ghost haunting my own childhood. Perfect. Everything was working exactly as planned. The catering truck arrived at 11 a.m. I watched from my car as they unloaded tables, chairs, and enough food for 20 people. The florist came next, followed by a rental company with linens and centerpieces. My phone had been buzzing all morning with confused texts from family members. Mum, Tessa, did you plan some kind of surprise? There are people setting up in our backyard. Aunt Daphne, what's happening at your mum's house? Looks like a party. Alana, OMG, are you throwing me a birthday party? It's not until next month, but I'm dying to know. I'd sent the same response to everyone. Family reunion, time we all got together, see you at 2 p.m. By 1:30, cars were pulling up. I recognised Dad's old Honda, Aunt Daphne's SUV, and Alana's white BMW, probably leased with money that should have paid the mortgage. I waited until 2:15, then walked up the front path carrying a manila folder and wearing my best business suit, the one I'd worn to close the hospital deal last month. The backyard was perfect. White tablecloths, fresh flowers, catered sandwiches and salads. My family sat around the main table looking confused but hopeful. Tessa! Mum jumped up and hugged me. This is such a wonderful surprise. We've missed you so much. Have you? Of course we have. Your family. Alana bounced over. her surgically enhanced features glowing with excitement. "Is this for my birthday? You didn't have to do all this." "I didn't do it for your birthday." Dad stood up from his chair, looking older than I remembered. "It's good to see you, sweetheart. You look successful." "I am successful." Aunt Daphne appeared at my elbow. This must have cost a fortune. Business must be going well. "Very well." I walked to the head of the table and set down my folder. Everyone gathered around, expectant faces waiting for whatever surprise I had planned. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "I thought it was time we had a family meeting." "A meeting?" Mum laughed nervously. "This looks more like a celebration." "It is a celebration of new beginnings." I opened the folder and pulled out the deed. "I wanted you all to know that I bought this house." Silence. Then nervous laughter from Alana. "Very funny, Tess, but seriously, what's the surprise?" I held up the deed so everyone could see it. "Midwest Property Holdings, LLC, that's my company. I bought 412 Lily Lane Drive for $110,000. Cash." Mum's face went white. "That's not possible." "It's very possible. I have the paperwork right here." Dad sat down heavily. "You bought our house?" "Your former house. The bank foreclosed 3 weeks ago. I purchased it from them." Aunt Daphne grabbed the deed from my hands, scanning it frantically. "This has to be fake. You can't just buy someone's house." "You can when they default on their mortgage. Public auction, completely legal." "But we live here," Mum's voice cracked. "This is our home." "Not anymore." Alana was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. "Wait, so you own our house now? Like, actually own it?" "That's correct." "So we're—" "What? Your tenants?" "No, you're trespassers." The word hit them like a physical blow. Mum sank into her chair, Aunt Daphne started hyperventilating, and Dad just stared at his hands. "I don't understand," Alana said, her voice small. "Why would you do this to us?" I turned to face her directly. "Do you remember my college fund?" "Your what?" $30,000. My college fund. The money Mum and Dad saved for my education." Alana glanced at her mother, then back at me. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Your nose job, your lip fillers, your business investments. Where do you think that money came from?" Understanding dawned on her face. Oh. I stepped closer. "That's it? Just oh?" "Tessa, that was so long ago. 16 years, I counted." Mum found her voice. "We thought we were helping the family. Alana had opportunities. I had opportunities too. Northwestern University, pre-med program, full acceptance." "You never told us about Northwestern," Dad said quietly. I pulled out a photocopy of my acceptance letter. "I tried to. The day you decided my cousin's face was more important than my future." Alana's eyes filled with tears. "I never asked them to do that." "Didn't you?" The moving truck pulled up to the curb, right on schedule. 3 guys in uniforms started unloading boxes and furniture dollies. "What's happening?" Mum whispered. "You're leaving, all of you, today." "You can't do this," Aunt Daphne sputtered. "We have rights." "You had 30 days. The eviction notice was served a month ago. Your time is up." The movers approached our table. "Ma'am, we're here for the furniture removal." I nodded. "Everything except what's in the master bedroom closet. That stays." "Tessa, please," Mum begged. "We're family." I looked around the table at these people who'd shaped my childhood, who taught me that love was conditional and dreams were expendable. "You're right, Mom. We are family, and I learned everything I know about family loyalty from you." I turned to Alana one last time. "Still think your face bought you more than my brain?" She didn't answer. She was too busy crying into her perfectly manicured hands. The movers worked efficiently. Dad's recliner went first, then the dining room set where we'd eaten 1,000 family dinners. Alana stood in the driveway, live streaming her breakdown to her remaining followers. "This is literally the worst day of my life," she sobbed into her phone. "My own cousin is making us homeless. Please, if anyone can help." "Turn off the camera," I said, walking past her toward the house. "Don't tell me what to do. You've ruined everything." "I've ruined everything?" I stopped and faced her. "I worked 3 jobs to pay for community college while you got Botox with my tuition money." "That's not..." "It's exactly what happened, and now you're begging strangers on the internet to fix the mess you made." Aunt Daphne appeared beside her daughter. "She has every right to ask for help. Unlike some people, Alana isn't heartless." "Heartless?" I laughed. "You want to talk about heartless? Let's talk about threatening to destroy my parents' marriage unless they funded your daughter's cosmetic surgery." Daphne's face went pale. "How did you—" "I heard everything that night. Marcus, Mum's affair, your blackmail." Mum emerged from the house carrying a box of photo albums. "Tessa, please, can we talk privately?" "We can talk right here." "Not in front of everyone?" "Why not? We're family, right? No secrets between family." The movers carried out the kitchen table. Dad followed them, looking lost. "Where are we supposed to go?" he asked quietly. "I don't know, Dad. Where did you think I was supposed to go when I was 16 and had nowhere to sleep?" "That's different. You were young. I was your daughter." He flinched like I'd slapped him. A car pulled up to the curb. Peyton got out, visibly pregnant and carrying a small suitcase. "Tessa, I got your text. Are you sure about this?" "Positive." I walked over to her. "Peyton, meet my family. Family, this is Peyton. She's a 3rd-year med student at State." "Nice to meet you," Peyton said awkwardly, taking in the chaos of the move. "Peyton needs a place to stay while she finishes her residency applications," I announced. "So I'm giving her my old room." Mum's mouth fell open. "You're giving our house to a stranger?" "My house? And she's not a stranger. She's someone who actually earned her opportunities." I led Peyton inside and up the stairs. My old bedroom was empty now, except for the boxes of Alana's failed merchandise. "This will be perfect," Peyton said, looking around. "Are you sure you want to do this? I mean, for me?" "I'm sure. You remind me of someone I used to know." "Who?" "Me, before I got bitter." We went back downstairs. The movers were loading the last of the furniture. My family stood in the driveway like refugees, surrounded by hastily packed boxes and suitcases. "This is insane," Alana said, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "You can't just kick us out." "I already did. But where are we supposed to go?" "I don't know. Maybe your followers can help. You've got what, 30,000 of them?" 28,000, she mumbled. "Right. I'm sure they'll all chip in." Mum approached me one more time. "Tessa, I know you're angry." "I'm not angry anymore. I'm done. Please, just give us a few more days. We'll figure something out." "You had 16 years to figure something out. You chose to invest in the wrong future." "She's our family." "So was I." A police car pulled up. Officer Martinez got out, checking his notepad. "Someone called about a property dispute?" "No dispute," I said, showing him the deed and eviction papers. "Just making sure the transition goes smoothly." He reviewed the documents. "Everything looks legal. Folks, you need to clear the property." Dad loaded the last box into his Honda. "Come on, Angela. We'll figure this out." "Figure what out?" Mum snapped. "We have nowhere to go." "We'll stay at a motel tonight. Then we'll make a plan." Aunt Daphne was already in her SUV, engine running. "I can't deal with this. Alana, get in." "What about Grandma's china?" Alana asked. "It's still in the dining room." "I'll keep it safe," I said. "Family heirloom and all." She stared at me for a long moment. "I never meant for this to happen." "Yes, you did. You just thought there wouldn't be consequences." The last car pulled away at sunset. I stood in the driveway of my childhood home, watching their taillights disappear around the corner. Peyton joined me on the front steps. You okay? I will be. That was brutal. It was necessary. She was quiet for a moment. What happens now? Now, you study for your MCATs. I renovate this place, and we both become the doctors we always wanted to be. And your family? I looked at the empty street. They'll learn what I learned 16 years ago. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you are the first ones to let you down. That's sad. It's honest. 3 weeks later, Mum showed up at my office. My assistant tried to stop her, but she pushed past the reception desk and burst into my conference room during a board meeting. Tessa, we need to talk, now! The 5 executives around the table looked up from their quarterly reports. I set down my pen and smiled apologetically. Gentlemen, could you give us a moment? They filed out, shooting curious glances at my dishevelled mother. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled. She looked like she'd been sleeping in her car. Nice office, she said, looking around at the floor-to-ceiling windows and mahogany furniture. Business must be booming. It is. What do you want? I want my daughter back. Your daughter is right here. No, she's not. The Tessa I raised wouldn't throw her own family on the street. I leaned back in my chair. The Tessa you raised died the night you chose Alana's nose over my future. That's not fair. Fair. I stood up. You want to talk about fair? Let's talk about fair. I walked to my desk and pulled out a folder. Alana's Instagram analytics want to know what your $30,000 investment bought you. Mum didn't answer. Peak followers, 31,000. Current followers, 18,000 and dropping. Total lifetime earnings from sponsorships, $12,000. That's a net loss of $18,000, plus interest. Money isn't everything. You're right. It's not. But apparently, it was everything when you stole mine. We didn't steal anything. We made an investment in family. Whose family? Because it sure wasn't mine. Mum sank into one of the conference chairs. We're living in a motel, Tessa. Your father's working at a gas station. Daphne won't return my calls. Alana's having panic attacks. And we need help. From who? From you. You're successful now. You can afford to help us. I sat down across from her. Like you helped me. That was different. How? You were young. You had options. I had one option, the one you took away. She was quiet for a moment, picking at her fingernails. I know you're angry. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. In me? In all of you. But mostly in myself. Why? Because I thought you might actually apologize. I thought you might take responsibility for what you did. But you're here asking for money instead. We're desperate, Tessa. So was I. For 6 years I was desperate. I slept on library floors. I ate ramen noodles for every meal. I worked 3 jobs while going to school full time. And you know what? Not once did any of you ask if I needed help. Mum's eyes filled with tears. We thought you were doing fine. You thought I was convenient to ignore. My phone buzzed. Text from Peyton. Contractors are here. Where do you want the clinic entrance? I showed Mum the message. I'm turning your old house into a medical clinic. Free healthcare for low-income families. Your what? The living room will be the waiting area. Kitchen becomes a pharmacy. Your bedroom is getting converted into exam rooms. But that's our home. Was your home. Now it's going to help people who actually need it. What about us? What about you? We need somewhere to live. I opened my laptop and pulled up a website. There's a nice apartment complex about 20 minutes from here. 2-bedroom units, reasonable rent. I'll put you in touch with the leasing office. We can't afford rent. Your father makes minimum wage. Then maybe Alana should get a job. She's trying to rebuild her brand. Her brand! I laughed. Mum, she's 32 years old. She has no education, no skills, and a social media following that's hemorrhaging followers daily. Her brand is dead. Don't say that. It's the truth. The truth you've been avoiding for 16 years. I closed the laptop. Here's what's going to happen. I'll pay for 3 months at that apartment complex. That gives you 90 days to figure out your lives. After that, you're on your own. 3 months isn't enough time. It's more than you gave me. Mum stood up, swaying slightly. I don't understand how you became so cold. You taught me. Every time you chose her over me, you taught me that love is conditional, that family is transactional, that the only person I can count on is myself. That's not what I meant to teach you, but it's what I learned. She walked to the door, then turned back. What if we can't make it work? What if we end up homeless? Then you'll understand what it felt like to be 16 and have nowhere to go. Tessa, the apartment complex is called Riverside Gardens. Tell them I referred you. They'll have the paperwork ready. After she left, I sat alone in my conference room, looking out at the city skyline. My phone rang. Tessa, it's Peyton. The contractors want to know about the basement. Should they convert it to? Yes, make it a counselling centre for families in crisis. That's perfect. What should we call it? I thought about my mother's tears, my father's defeat, Alana's panic attacks, all the consequences of choices made 16 years ago. Call it the Second Chance Centre. I love it. You're really doing something amazing here. I'm doing what should have been done a long time ago. What's that? Helping people who actually deserve it. The clinic's grand opening was scheduled for Saturday morning. I arrived early to find Peyton directing volunteers, her 8-month belly making her waddle between stations. The pharmacy supplies are here, she called out, and the paediatric equipment just got delivered. I walked through what used to be my family's living room, now transformed into a bright waiting area with children's books and comfortable chairs. The kitchen had become a fully stocked pharmacy. Mum and Dad's old bedroom was now 2 exam rooms with state-of-the-art equipment. Dr. Tessa, a young volunteer, approached me. There's someone here to see you, says she's your mother. I found Mum standing in the front yard, staring at the new sign, Lily Lane Community Health Centre, free medical care for all. It's beautiful, she said quietly. Thank you. I wanted to apologise before the opening, before everyone gets here. For what, specifically? She took a shaky breath. For choosing wrong, for taking your money, for making you feel like you didn't matter. And for not fighting for you when you needed me to. I waited. I was scared, she continued. Daphne knew about Marcus, and I thought if Flynn found out, I'd lose everything, so I sacrificed you to protect myself. At least you're honest now. I've been going to therapy at the community centre downtown. They have a sliding scale program. Good. The therapist says I have to take responsibility for my choices, not blame circumstances or other people. Smart therapist. Mum looked at the clinic sign again. How many people will this help? We're projecting about 200 patients a month, families who can't afford regular health care. Like you couldn't afford college. Exactly like that. A car pulled up. Alana got out, looking nervous. She'd gained weight, and her hair was back to its natural brown colour. No makeup, simple clothes. Hi, she said, walking over to us. Alana. I nodded. I wanted to see what you did with the house, and to... She paused, looking at her hands. To say I'm sorry. For what? For taking what was yours, for not speaking up when I knew it was wrong, for being selfish. What changed your mind? I got a job at a call centre, 40 hours a week, minimum wage. It's the first real job I've ever had. How's that working out? It sucks, but I'm learning what it's like to actually work for money instead of just expecting it. More cars were arriving, families with children, elderly couples, young adults who looked like they were struggling to make ends meet. I should go, Alana said. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what you went through, what we put you through. Do you? I think so. I'm living in a studio apartment and eating mac and cheese every night, but I'm paying my own rent for the first time in my life. How does it feel? Terrifying, but also kind of good, like I'm finally growing up. Peyton waddled over, breathing heavily. Tessa, we're ready to start. The ribbon-cutting ceremony? I looked at the red ribbon stretched across the front entrance, then at my mother and cousins standing awkwardly beside me. Actually, I want someone else to cut the ribbon. Who? I scanned the growing crowd and spotted a familiar face. A young woman about 19, holding a baby and looking overwhelmed. Her? I walked over to the girl. Hi, I'm Tessa. What's your name? Maria, this is my daughter, Sophia. How old is Sophia? 6 months. She's been sick, but I can't afford to take her to the doctor. Well, today you can. Would you like to cut the ribbon and be our first official patient? Maria's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? I handed her the scissors. The crowd gathered around as she cut the ribbon, her baby gurgling happily in her arms. Welcome to Lily Lane Community Health Centre, I announced, where everyone deserves quality health care, regardless of their ability to pay. The crowd applauded. Families began streaming inside, children running ahead of their parents, elderly people leaning on walkers. Peyton grabbed my arm suddenly. Oh no. What? My water just broke. I looked down at the puddle forming around her feet, then at the crowd of people entering our brand new clinic. Perfect timing, I said, helping her toward the nearest exam room. Looks like we're having our first delivery. This wasn't part of the plan. The best things never are. As I helped Peyton onto the examination table, I caught a glimpse of my mother through the window. She was directing traffic in the parking lot, helping elderly patients find their way inside. Maybe people could change. Maybe second chances were worth giving. But some lessons, once learned, stay with you forever. I'd never forget what it felt like to be abandoned by the people who were supposed to love me most. And I'd never stop fighting for the people who reminded me of who I used to be. Peyton squeezed my hand as another contraction hit. Ready to deliver a baby, Dr. Tessa? I've been ready for this my whole life.
The photo showed up on my Facebook feed at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I know the exact time because I screenshot it, and the timestamp is burned into my phone's memory like a scar. My name is Serenity, and I've been keeping track of moments like these my whole life. Not because I'm petty, well, maybe a little, but because when you're the forgotten daughter, you learn to document your own erasure. The photo was innocent enough. My mother Evelyn had posted it with the caption, "Beautiful day at the zoo with our favorite people." There she was, beaming next to my father Jarvis, my sister Kira, and Kira's 3-year-old daughter Addison. They were standing in front of the elephant exhibit, cotton candy in hand, looking like the picture-perfect family they'd always been. Without me. "Weston," I called to my husband, who was in the kitchen warming up a bottle for our 6-month-old son Jolie. "Come look at this." He walked over, still holding the bottle, and peered at my phone screen. His jaw tightened. "When was this taken?" "Today, apparently." I scrolled through the comments. Kira had already chimed in. "Best impromptu family day ever. Some people just know how to make memories happen." The knife twisted deeper when I saw my mother's reply. "We're so blessed to have family who can just go with the flow." Weston sat down beside me on the couch. "Didn't you call your mom yesterday?" I had. I'd called her at 9 a.m., practically begging. "Mom, I have that follow-up appointment with Dr. Martinez tomorrow. The one about my anxiety medication. Weston can't get off work, and I really can't bring Jolie to a psychiatric appointment. Could you maybe watch him for 2 hours?" Her voice had been clipped, distracted. "Oh, honey, I wish I could, but I have so many errands to run. You know how it is. Maybe ask one of your friends?" Friends. As if I had a village of people lined up to help with my colicky baby while I figured out why I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't stop the racing thoughts that told me I was failing at everything. It's just 2 hours, Mom. Serenity, I really can't. I'm sorry, maybe reschedule? I'd hung up feeling smaller than I had in years. Rescheduled the appointment. Spent the day bouncing a crying baby while wondering if other new mothers felt this alone. Now, staring at their zoo adventure, I felt something shift inside my chest. Not heartbreak. I'd felt that too many times to mistake it for anything else. This was colder, sharper. Look at the timestamp, I said, showing Weston the photo details. Posted at 2:30 p.m. They've been there for hours. I scrolled back through my mother's recent posts. There was one from this morning. Sometimes the best plans are no plans at all. She planned this, I whispered. Weston's hand found mine. Babe? No, look, really look. I pulled up Kira's Instagram stories. There were at least 12 posts from their day. The first one was timestamped 10:15 a.m. She told me she had errands. Errands, Weston, while she was literally driving to pick up Kira and Addison for a family zoo trip. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Hope you had a good day, sweetheart. We missed you at the zoo. It was so last minute. I stared at the message until the words blurred. What are you going to say? Weston asked. I typed and deleted 3 different responses. Finally, I settled on, looked fun. Wish I'd known about it. Her reply came instantly. You know how these things happen. Kira just called and said Addison was having a meltdown, so we thought a change of scenery might help. You understand? I understood perfectly. I understood that when Kira's daughter had a bad day, it warranted an immediate family intervention. When I had a bad day, when I had a bad month, I got told to reschedule my therapy. I understood that last minute meant they'd planned this while I was on the phone begging for help. I understood that I would always be the afterthought, the inconvenience, the daughter who should just figure it out on her own. Jolie started crying from his bouncer, and I picked him up, inhaling that sweet baby smell that usually calmed me. Today, it just reminded me that he'd never know the grandparents who lived 20 minutes away, but might as well have been on another planet. I'm done, I said quietly. Done with what? I looked at Weston, then down at our son. Done pretending this is normal. Done making excuses for them. Done being surprised when they choose everyone else. It wasn't the moment I broke, but I marked it. Revenge isn't a scream. It's a whisper that waits. 3 weeks later, I sat in Dr. Martinez's office clutching a tissue box like a lifeline. The racing thoughts, the constant worry about Jolie's breathing, the inability to sleep even when he's sleeping, these are all classic symptoms of postpartum anxiety, she said gently. The good news is it's very treatable. So I'm not losing my mind? You're not losing your mind. You're a new mother whose brain is working overtime to protect your baby. But we need to get you some support. She leaned forward. Do you have family nearby who can help? I laughed, but it came out hollow. That's complicated. Support systems are crucial during this time. Even just having someone watch the baby for a few hours so you can shower, nap, or go for a walk can make a huge difference. I nodded, already knowing what I had to do, what I'd been avoiding. That evening, after Weston got home from work, I made the call. My hands were shaking as I dialed. Hi, Mom. Serenity, how are you, sweetheart? I'm struggling. The words felt like glass in my throat. I saw a doctor today about some anxiety I've been having since Jolie was born, and she said I need more support. I was wondering. Oh, anxiety? Honey, that's just new mom nerves. I remember feeling overwhelmed with you girls too. It passes. Mom, this is more than that. I'm not sleeping. I can barely function some days. I really need help. Silence stretched between us. What kind of help? Maybe you and Dad could come over this weekend? Just for a day or two? Help with Jolie so I can rest, maybe meal prep, just be here? This weekend? Her tone shifted. Oh, sweetie, we can't this weekend. We're actually taking Kira and Addison on a little getaway. My stomach dropped. A getaway? Yes, we booked this lovely cruise, 7 days in the Caribbean. Kira's been so stressed with Cody working late, and we thought Addison would love the kids' club on the ship. A cruise. I repeated the words like I was learning a foreign language. It was kind of last minute, but you know how these deals pop up. We leave Friday. How much did that cost? Well, it wasn't cheap, but family is worth it, right? Kira deserves a break. I closed my eyes. And what about me? Don't I deserve a break? Of course you do, honey, but this is different. Kira has a toddler, and you know how demanding Addison can be. Plus, you have Weston to help. Weston works 60 hours a week, Mom. I'm sure you'll figure it out. You're so capable, Serenity. You always have been. Dad's voice came through in the background. Tell her she needs to toughen up. Maybe act like her sister for once. The words hit me like a physical blow. I heard Mom shush him, but the damage was done. I have to go, I whispered. Serenity, don't be dramatic. We'll help when we get back, okay? It's just a week. I hung up without saying goodbye. Weston found me an hour later, sitting in our dark kitchen at 3 a.m. with Jolie crying in my arms. I was crying too, but silently, the tears just streaming down my face. Babe, what happened? They're taking Kira on a cruise. My voice was flat, emotionless. 7 days in the Caribbean. Kids Club for Addison. The works. What did they say when you asked for help? That I need to toughen up. That I should act like my sister for once. Weston sat down across from me, his face hard. They said that to you? While you're dealing with postpartum anxiety? My dad did. Mom just agreed. Jolie's cries intensified, and I bounced him mechanically. Nothing I did seemed to help anymore. Nothing anyone did seemed to help. How much do you think that cruise cost? I asked. Probably $4,000 or $5,000, maybe more. They have $4,000 for Kira's stress relief, but they can't spare a weekend to help their other daughter who's literally falling apart. Weston reached across the table and took my free hand. I'm so sorry. I'm done asking them for anything. I looked down at Jolie, who had finally quieted against my chest. I'm done expecting them to care. I walked to the living room and grabbed my phone. One by one, I left every family group chat. The Ross family updates chat where Mom shared photos. The Sunday dinner plans chat that I was rarely included in anyway. The grandkids chat where 90% of the photos were of Addison. Each time I hit leave group, I felt a little lighter. What are you doing? Weston asked. If they won't be my village, I'll build my own. The last notification I deleted was from Kira's Instagram story. A boomerang of her packing designer swimsuits with the caption, Cruise mode activated. Just blessed, just family time. I turned off my phone and looked at my husband holding our son. We're going to be okay, I said. For the first time in weeks, I meant it. 1 year later, I was flipping pancakes on a Saturday morning when Jolie toddled into the kitchen, babbling happily. He was walking now, 16 months old and fearless. Mama! Nana! Yes, baby, Nana Rachel is coming today. I scooped him up and spun him around, making him giggle. The doorbell rang right on schedule. Weston's parents never missed our Saturday tradition. There are my favorite people. Rachel burst through the door with her arms full of grocery bags, followed by Daryl carrying a toolbox. You didn't have to bring food again, I said, but I was smiling. Nonsense. I'm making my famous blueberry muffins with this little guy. She swooped Jolie into her arms. Aren't I, sweet boy? And I'm fixing that squeaky door upstairs, Daryl announced. Been bothering me for weeks. This was how it had been since I'd started going to the new mom support group at the community center. Rachel had been volunteering there, helping with childcare during meetings, when she overheard me mention that my in-laws lived across the country. Well, that's ridiculous, she'd said afterward. You live 20 minutes from us. We're your family now. And just like that, we were. How was group this week? Rachel asked, settling Jolie in his high chair with some banana pieces. Good. Sarah's baby is finally sleeping through the night and Maya got approved for that part-time position she wanted. And how are you doing? Better, really better. I poured batter into the pan. Dr. Martinez says the medication is working well and having you guys, it makes all the difference. Rachel squeezed my shoulder. That's what family does. The word hit differently now. Family wasn't the people who shared your DNA and then disappeared when you needed them. Family was Rachel teaching Jolie to clap his hands. Family was Daryl showing up every weekend with his toolbox, quietly fixing things around our house. Family was the group of women who met every Thursday and celebrated each other's small victories. Oh, I brought the photo album from last weekend, Rachel said, pulling out her phone. The pictures from the park turned out beautiful. We'd started doing monthly photo sessions. Nothing fancy, just documenting Jolie's milestones. Rachel had suggested it after I mentioned that I barely had any pictures of myself with him. Look at this one, she said, showing me a photo of Jolie and me on the swing set. He was laughing, his chubby hands reaching for the camera, and I looked happy, genuinely happy. I love it. I'm making you a scrapbook. Every month we'll add new pages. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from an unknown number, but I recognized it immediately. My mother had gotten a new phone. Just checking in. Hope you and the baby are okay. We miss you. I stared at the message for a long moment, then set the phone face down. Everything all right? Rachel asked. Just spam. Upstairs, Daryl's drill whirred as he worked on the door. The sound mixed with Jolie's happy babbling and the sizzle of pancakes on the griddle. It was domestic and perfect, and everything I'd never had growing up. Serenity, Rachel said carefully. I hope you know you can talk to me about anything. I know things with your parents are complicated. I flipped a pancake, watching it land perfectly golden. They made their choice a long time ago. I'm just finally accepting it. That must be hard. It was, but look around. I gestured to our kitchen where Jolie was smearing banana on his tray while Rachel laughed and wiped his face. This is better than anything I ever had with them. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification from Instagram. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Kira had posted a story. The first slide was a photo of Addison having what looked like a complete meltdown in a grocery store, with the caption, "When you're doing this alone, just single-parent life, overwhelmed." The next slide was a screenshot of a text conversation with our mother. "Can you take Addison for the weekend? I can't handle this anymore." Mom's response, "We're exhausted, honey. Maybe try that new daycare." I almost laughed. The golden child was finally getting a taste of what I'd lived with my entire life. "What's so funny?" Rachel asked. "Nothing important." I deleted the Instagram app from my phone entirely. Just clearing out some digital clutter. Good for you. Life's too short for things that don't bring you joy. Jolie threw a piece of banana, and it landed on my shirt. Instead of feeling frustrated, I laughed and threw a piece back at him, making him squeal with delight. "Mama's silly." "Yes, Mama's very silly." I kissed his forehead, sticky with banana and syrup. My phone buzzed one more time. Another text from my mother. "Please call when you get a chance. We really need to talk." I turned the phone off completely and slipped it into the junk drawer. "Who wants to go to the park after breakfast?" I asked. Me. Jolie clapped his hands, even though he couldn't really understand the question yet. "Park it is," Rachel said. "I'll bring the good camera." We were building our own photo album now, one where everyone in the pictures actually wanted to be there. "You're not going to believe this," Maya said, sliding into her usual seat at our Thursday support group meeting. I looked up from where I was helping Jolie stack blocks in the corner. "What happened?" "Remember how I told you I work at Little Sprouts Daycare?" Maya lowered her voice. "Well, we had a situation this week. A 3-year-old got pulled out because of behavioral issues. That's sad. Poor kid." The thing is, I recognized the name when the mom came to pick up her stuff. Addison Ellis. Isn't your sister's last name Ellis? My hands stilled on the blocks. What kind of behavioral issues? Hitting other kids, screaming fits that lasted hours, throwing toys. The mom seemed completely overwhelmed. She was crying when she left. I sat back on my heels. When was this? Tuesday. The mom said something about having to move back in with her parents because her husband left. Maya's eyes widened. Oh my God, that is your sister, isn't it? Before I could answer, Sarah leaned over from the next chair. Did you say Ellis? I know that family. My neighbor works at the elementary school, and she said there was drama about a kid not being picked up on time multiple days in a row. Same kid? Has to be. Small town, right? I picked up Jolie and held him close, breathing in his familiar scent. He was nothing like the child they were describing. Happy, curious, gentle with other kids at playgroup. The mom looked really rough, Maya continued, like she hadn't slept in weeks, and the little girl was having a complete meltdown in the parking lot. Took 3 of us to get her into the car seat. My phone had been buzzing intermittently for the past 2 weeks. Unknown numbers, voicemails I hadn't listened to, texts I'd deleted without reading. Now I was starting to understand why. After group ended, I sat in my car and finally opened my voicemail. The first one was from 3 days ago. Dad's voice, shaky and tired. Serenity, it's your father. We need to talk to you. Things have been difficult here, and we think maybe we made some mistakes. Please call us back. The second one was from yesterday, Mom this time. Honey, I know you're angry with us, but we really need your help. Kira is going through a hard time and Addison is, well, she's having some challenges. We're all struggling here. Please just call me back. The third was from this morning. Dad again. We owe you an apology. A big one. Please call us. I played the last message for Weston over dinner that night. He nearly choked on his pasta. Are you serious right now? He said, wiping his mouth. After everything they put you through? Gets better. Listen to this one. I played Mom's message. We really need your help, Weston repeated. Not, we miss you, or we were wrong. They need your help. Jolie banged his spoon against his high chair tray, completely oblivious to the drama unfolding around him. He was such a happy kid. Secure. Loved. Everything Addison apparently wasn't. What are you going to do? Nothing. Nothing? They made their bed, now they get to lie in it. I cut up more chicken for Jolie. Besides, we have news to share with them eventually. Weston raised an eyebrow. We do? I smiled. I got the call today. The job in Oregon came through. Full remote position, better pay, and will be 10 minutes from your parents instead of across the country. Serenity, that's amazing. He jumped up and kissed me. When do we start? I start in 6 weeks, which means we need to put the house on the market. Wait. Weston sat back down. You're going to move across the country without telling them? Why would I tell them? They haven't been part of our lives for over a year. My phone rang. Dad's number. Answer it, Weston said. I want to hear this. I put it on speaker. Hello? Serenity. Thank God. We've been trying to reach you for weeks. I've been busy. Honey, we need to see you. We need to meet our grandson properly, and we need to talk about some things. We've made mistakes. What kind of mistakes? Silence, then Mom's voice in the background. Tell her about Kira. Your sister is going through a divorce. Cody left her and she's moved back home with Addison. It's been challenging. Challenging how? Addison is having some behavioral problems. She's been kicked out of daycare and Kira can't work. We're overwhelmed. I looked at Weston, who was shaking his head in disbelief. And you thought of me because? Because you're family. Because we need each other. Funny, I needed you a year ago and you went on a cruise instead. That's not fair. Dad, I have to go. Jolie needs his bath. Wait, please, can we come see you this weekend? We really need to talk. I looked around our kitchen, at the finger paintings on the fridge, At Jolie's high chair covered in Cheerio crumbs. At the life we'd built without them. "Sure," I said finally. "Come by Saturday afternoon." After I hung up, Weston stared at me. "What are you planning?" "Nothing dramatic. I'm just going to show them exactly what they missed." "And then?" "And then I'm going to tell them we're moving to Oregon." I picked up Jolie and spun him around, making him laugh. "Aren't we, baby boy? We're going to live near Grandma Rachel and Grandpa Daryl, where people actually want to spend time with us." Jolie clapped his hands, delighted. Perfect timing, as always. Saturday afternoon arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that made everything feel like a fresh start. I was in the kitchen making tea when I saw their car pull into the driveway. "They're here," I called to Weston, who was in the living room with Jolie. "You sure about this?" "Positive." I opened the front door before they could knock. Mom looked older than I remembered, with new lines around her eyes and gray roots showing through her usually perfect blonde hair. Dad stood behind her, hands shoved deep in his pockets. "Serenity." Mom's voice cracked. "You look wonderful." "Thank you. Come in." They stepped inside, and I watched their faces as they took in our home. Really took it in, maybe for the first time, the walls covered with Jolie's artwork, the photo collages documenting every month of his life, the corner where his toys were neatly organized in colorful bins. "This is beautiful," Dad said quietly. "Thank you. We've worked hard to make it a home." Jolie peeked around the corner from the living room, then immediately hid behind Weston's legs when he saw the strangers. "Is that him?" Mom whispered, like she was seeing a miracle. "That's Jolie. He's 18 months now. He's so big." She took a step forward and Jolie pressed closer to Weston. "Hi, sweetie. I'm your grandma." Jolie didn't respond. He'd never heard that word applied to her before. "He's shy with new people," I said evenly. "Would you like some tea?" We sat in the living room, the silence stretching uncomfortably. Jolie stayed glued to Weston's side, occasionally peeking at my parents with curious but wary eyes. "He doesn't know us," Mom said, her voice small. "No, he doesn't." "Serenity." Dad cleared his throat. "We owe you an enormous apology." "For what specifically?" They exchanged glances. Mom spoke first. "For not being there when you needed us. For choosing Kira over you, repeatedly. For making you feel like you didn't matter. And for what Dad said on the phone that night. About toughening up and acting like Kira." Dad winced. "That was inexcusable. I was frustrated with the situation, but I took it out on you, and that was wrong." I sipped my tea, letting their words hang in the air. "What situation were you frustrated with?" Kira had been calling us constantly, complaining about Cody working late, about Addison being difficult. We thought if we took them on the cruise it would help, instead of helping your other daughter who was dealing with postpartum anxiety. "We didn't understand how serious it was," Mom said quickly. "We thought it was just normal new mom stress." "Did you think to ask?" Silence. Jolie toddled over to his toy box and pulled out his favorite book. He brought it to Weston, who immediately started reading to him in a soft voice. My parents watched, transfixed. "He's never done that with us," Mom whispered. "He doesn't know you," I repeated. "We want to change that," Dad said. "We want to be part of his life, part of your life." "Where's Kira today?" Mom's face tightened. "She's having a difficult day. Addison had another meltdown this morning, and Kira locked herself in her room. She's been struggling since Cody left." "And you're overwhelmed?" "Yes. So you came to me." "You're our daughter too," Dad said. "We should have come to you first. We should have been there from the beginning." I set down my teacup. "You're right. You should have. But you weren't. We can fix this," Mom said desperately. "We can start over. We can help with Jolie, and you can help us with Addison. We can be a real family." "That's interesting timing." "What do you mean?" I stood up and walked to the mantel, where a stack of papers sat next to a framed photo of Jolie's first birthday party. Rachel and Daryl were in every picture, along with our friends from the support group. My parents weren't in a single one. I mean, you want to be a family now that Kira can't handle her life anymore. Now that the golden child has fallen from grace and you need a backup plan. That's not... It is, though. I picked up the papers from the mantel. These are our moving contracts. We're relocating to Oregon in 3 weeks. The color drained from Mom's face. Moving? I got a job offer, remote work, better pay, and we'll be close to Weston's parents. You know, the ones who actually showed up when we needed them. You can't take our grandson away from us, Mom said, standing up abruptly. Our grandson? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. He's been your grandson for 18 months. Where have you been? We made mistakes. You made choices. Every single day for over a year you chose Kira and Addison over Jolie and me. You chose a cruise over helping your daughter through a mental health crisis. You chose to ignore us until you needed something. Dad stood up too. We're here now. We're trying to make it right. You're here because your other daughter is falling apart and you can't handle it alone. This isn't about making things right with me. This is about damage control. Jolie looked up from his book, sensing the tension in the room. Weston scooped him up protectively. Don't keep our grandson from us, Mom pleaded. I looked at her for a long moment. Then at Dad. Then at my son, who was contentedly playing with Weston's watch. I'm not keeping him from you, I said quietly. You did that already, for over a year. The sound of a car door slamming made us all turn toward the window. Another car had pulled up in our driveway. Were you expecting someone else? Dad asked. I smiled for the first time since they'd arrived. Actually, yes, that would be the realtor. The realtor knocked just as Mom sank back onto the couch, staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Excuse me for a moment. I walked to the front door and opened it. Hi, Janet. Perfect timing. Serenity, ready for the final walkthrough before we list on Monday? Janet stepped inside with her tablet and measuring tape. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you had company. It's fine. These are my parents. They were just leaving. Actually, we weren't, Dad said firmly. We need to finish this conversation. Janet looked between us, clearly sensing the tension. I can come back later. No need, I said. We can do the walkthrough now. My parents are welcome to see what they're missing. I turned to Mom and Dad. Feel free to look around while Janet and I work. Consider it a tour of your grandson's childhood. Weston caught my eye and nodded slightly. He understood. He picked up Jolie and followed us as I led Janet through the house. So this is the living room, I said in my most professional voice. As you can see, we've made it very child-friendly. That corner there is Jolie's reading nook. We read together every night before bed. Janet made notes on her tablet while Mom wandered over to look at the photo wall. Dozens of pictures chronicled Jolie's life. First smile, first food, first steps, first birthday party. These are beautiful, Janet said. Buyers love seeing how a family has lived in a space. Thank you. We've been very intentional about documenting memories. Mom picked up a framed photo from the side table. It was from Jolie's first Christmas, all of us in matching pajamas with Rachel and Daryl. Her hands shook slightly. Let's move to the kitchen, I continued. This is where we have our Saturday morning pancake tradition. Jolie helps me flip them now. I opened the cabinet where we kept his special plastic spatula and showed Janet the step stool we'd painted together. And this, I said, pointing to the refrigerator, is our art gallery. Every masterpiece gets displayed. The fridge was covered in Jolie's finger paintings, handprint turkeys, and crayon scribbles. In the center was a photo of him covered in flour from our last baking session, grinning from ear to ear. Dad stood in the doorway, taking it all in. You've built a beautiful life here. We have. Upstairs? Janet asked. Of course. We climbed the stairs, my parents trailing behind. I pointed out the family photos lining the stairwell, more memories they weren't part of. "This is Jolie's room," I said, opening the door to reveal walls painted soft blue with clouds on the ceiling. Weston painted those clouds himself when I was pregnant. The room was perfect. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with stories we read every night. A rocking chair sat in the corner where I'd spent countless hours nursing and soothing. Toys were organized in bins, and artwork covered every available surface. "Here's where he took his first steps," I said, pointing to the space between his crib and the toy chest. "And that corner? That's where he said his first word. Mama." Mom made a small sound, almost like a sob. "The master bedroom is through here," I continued, leading Janet down the hall. "We converted the walk-in closet into a small office space when I started working from home." "Smart use of space," Janet said, making more notes. "We've had to be creative. When you don't have family support, you learn to make the most of what you have." Dad stopped in the hallway. "Serenity, please. Can we talk privately?" "We are talking. I'm showing you 18 months of your grandson's life that you missed by choice. We didn't choose to miss it. You chose a cruise over helping me when I was drowning. You chose to ignore my calls. You chose to post zoo pictures the day after I begged you for 2 hours of help." My voice stayed level, professional. "These were all choices." Janet cleared her throat uncomfortably. "Maybe I should—" "It's fine, Janet. They need to see this." I walked to the window that overlooked our backyard. "That's where we set up Jolie's first kiddie pool last summer. And see that sandbox? Weston built it for his first birthday." "The birthday we weren't invited to," Mom whispered. "You were invited. I sent you an invitation. You said you had plans with Kira. You thought wrong. About a lot of things." Jolie started fussing in Weston's arms, and I took him. He immediately calmed, snuggling against my shoulder. "He's tired. It's almost nap time." I looked at my parents. "This is our routine. Every day at 2 p.m., he naps in his crib while I work or clean or just breathe. Simple things that make a life." "We want to be part of that life," Dad said desperately. "Where were you when we were building it?" Janet finished measuring the room and stepped back. "I think I have everything I need for now. The house is going to show beautifully." "Thank you. We'll be in Oregon before it closes, but our attorney can handle everything remotely." "Oregon?" Mom's voice cracked. "How far?" "Far enough." We walked back downstairs, the silence heavy between us. Janet gathered her things and headed for the door. "I'll have the listing live by Monday morning. In this market, I expect multiple offers within the first week." "Perfect. Thank you, Janet." After she left, my parents stood in our entryway, looking lost. "This is revenge," Mom said finally. I adjusted Jolie on my hip and looked at her calmly. "No, this is correction. Revenge would have been letting you believe we still needed you. We're your family. Family shows up. Family doesn't abandon you when things get hard and then come crawling back when they need something." I walked to the door and opened it. "You should go. Jolie needs his nap, and I'm sure Kira needs you." They didn't move. "Please," Dad said, "don't do this. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm doing something for us. We can change. You had 18 months to change. You chose not to." I kissed Jolie's forehead, and he smiled sleepily at me. "Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Dad." This time, they left. After they left, I found myself standing in Jolie's room, watching him sleep in his crib. The afternoon light filtered through the cloud-painted ceiling, and everything felt surreal. Weston appeared in the doorway. "How are you feeling?" "Honestly, lighter." My phone buzzed on the dresser. A text from Maya. "Girl, you need to see this. Check Kira's Instagram." I opened the app reluctantly. Kira had posted a long caption over a black square. "When you realize the people you thought would always be there for you aren't coming to save you. When you have to face the fact that maybe you've been living in a fantasy. Some of us weren't built for the real world. Some of us crack under pressure. I thought my sister would be the one who broke, But here I am, completely falling apart while she's thriving without any of us. Funny how life works. The post had dozens of comments, mostly from people I didn't recognize offering generic support. But one comment caught my eye, from our cousin Lisa. Maybe it's time to apologize instead of making cryptic posts. I screenshot the post and sent it to Weston. Wow, he texted back from downstairs. She's really having a moment. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Kira's number. Hello? Serenity. Her voice was hoarse like she'd been crying. I saw Mom and Dad's car leaving your house. They came to visit. And they left. Silence stretched between us. Then, they told me you're moving to Oregon. We are. Because of us. I walked to the window and looked out at our backyard, where Weston was taking down Jolie's swing set to pack. Because it's what's best for our family. I messed up. Her voice cracked. I messed up so bad, Serenity. Cody left me, Addison is out of control, and I can't handle any of it. Mom and Dad are overwhelmed and I don't know what to do. I'm sorry you're going through that. Are you, though? Are you really sorry? Or are you happy that I'm finally getting what I deserve? I considered lying, giving her the polite response she was fishing for. Instead, I told the truth. I'm not happy that you're suffering, but I'm not surprised that you can't handle it when life gets hard. That's cold. It's honest. You've never had to handle anything difficult. Mom and Dad made sure of that. And you resent me for it. I used to. Now I just feel sorry for you. Sorry for me? You're 27 years old, and you don't know how to function when things don't go your way. You've never had to develop coping skills or resilience because someone always swooped in to fix everything for you. Kira was quiet for a long moment. I know I wasn't a good sister to you. No, you weren't. I could try to be better. It's too late for that. It doesn't have to be. We're still sisters. Sisters show up for each other. Sisters don't post passive-aggressive comments about how some people can't handle parenting when their sister is struggling with postpartum anxiety. You saw that? I saw a lot of things. I just stopped responding to them. I was jealous, she said quietly. You always seemed so put together, so capable. Even as kids, you handled everything better than I did. Because I had to. No one was going to handle it for me. I know that now. Do you? Or do you just know it because you're finally experiencing what I've lived with my whole life? Another long pause. What can I do to fix this? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. There has to be something. Kira, listen to me. I spent 30 years trying to earn love and approval from people who had already decided I wasn't worth it. I'm done. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt anymore. I'm just done. But we're family. No, we're not. We're related. There's a difference. I heard her crying on the other end of the line. I'm going to hang up now, I said gently. I hope you figure things out. I really do. But I won't be part of it. Serenity, wait. Take care of yourself, Kira. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. Downstairs, Weston was packing books into boxes. Everything okay? Perfect, actually. I picked up a photo album from the coffee table. One Rachel had made for us, documenting Jolie's first year. Every page was filled with love, laughter, and people who had chosen to be part of our story. You know what I realized today? What's that? I spent so many years trying to fit into their version of family that I never noticed I was building my own. Weston smiled. Our version is better. Much better. I opened the album to a page showing Jolie's first birthday party. Rachel and Daryl were helping him blow out his candle while our support group friends cheered in the background. Look at all these people who love him. And love you. And love me. I closed the album and placed it carefully in the box labeled Family Chosen. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown number, but I recognized the writing style immediately. Mom had gotten another new number. Please don't take our grandson away from us, we're begging you. I showed Weston the message. What are you going to say? I deleted the message without responding and blocked the number. Nothing. I'm done explaining myself to people who never listened anyway. Jolie's cries came through the baby monitor. Nap time was over. I'll get him, Weston said. We'll both get him. We walked upstairs together, and I lifted my sleepy, happy son from his crib. He smiled at me with pure, uncomplicated love. Ready to go see Grandma Rachel and Grandpa Daryl, baby boy? He clapped his hands, not understanding the words, but responding to my excitement. That's right. We're going home. The moving truck pulled away from our new house in Oregon just as Rachel and Daryl arrived with a cooler full of food and their arms full of welcome gifts. There's my sweet boy. Rachel scooped up Jolie, who squealed with delight. He'd been calling her Nana for months now, and she'd never corrected him. How does it feel? Daryl asked, looking up at our new house nestled between towering pine trees. Like coming home, I said, and meant it. Well, you're 10 minutes away now instead of across the country, so you better get used to us showing up all the time. Rachel laughed, spinning Jolie around. That's the plan. Weston emerged from the house carrying empty boxes. The neighbors already stopped by with cookies, 3 different families. That's how it is here, Daryl said. Real community. We spent the afternoon unpacking while Jolie toddled around the new house, exploring every corner with fearless curiosity. Rachel had brought materials to baby-proof everything, and Daryl was already measuring windows for safety locks. You don't have to do all that today, I protested. Nonsense, Rachel said, installing cabinet latches. This little guy needs to be safe in his new home. My phone, sitting on the kitchen counter, buzzed with a notification. Instagram. I'd reinstalled it to share our moving updates with the support group back home. The notification was from Maya. You need to see this. Screenshot incoming. The image showed a Facebook post from my mother. Heartbroken that our son-in-law has taken our daughter and grandson away from us. Some people choose to punish their families instead of working through problems together, praying for healing and forgiveness. Family, heartbroken, Chucker grandparents' rights. The post had dozens of comments from her church friends and neighbors, all offering sympathy and prayers. I showed the screenshot to Weston, who was assembling Jolie's new bookshelf. Grandparents' rights? He said. Seriously? She's really going all out with the victim narrative. Rachel looked over my shoulder at the phone. Who is this person? My mother. The one who ignored you for over a year and then showed up demanding access to Jolie? That's the one. Rachel's face hardened in a way I'd never seen before. May I? She took my phone and started typing. I watched, fascinated, as my sweet mother-in-law transformed into a protective mama bear. What are you writing? The truth, she handed the phone back. Her comment read, Evelyn, I'm Rachel Phillips, Serenity's mother-in-law. I've watched this beautiful family rebuild their lives after being abandoned by people who should have supported them. Serenity didn't take your grandson away. You gave him away when you chose a cruise over helping your daughter through postpartum anxiety. Some people choose to be victims instead of taking responsibility for their actions. Jolie is loved, safe, and surrounded by family who actually show up. Accountability, real family. Rachel, I stared at her. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Nobody talks about my daughter-in-law like that. My throat tightened. Your daughter-in-law? That's what you are, isn't it? My son's wife, my grandson's mother, part of our family? Jolie chose that moment to toddle over with his favorite book, holding it up to Rachel expectantly. Story, Nana. Of course, sweetheart. Let's read about the little bear who built her own cave. As Rachel settled into the rocking chair with Jolie, my phone started buzzing with notifications. People were responding to her comment, and apparently, my mother's post was backfiring spectacularly. Maya texted, Your mother-in-law is my hero. The comments are brutal. Your mom is getting roasted. I scrolled through them. Person after person was calling out my mother's manipulation, sharing their own stories of toxic family dynamics, praising Rachel for standing up for me. Then I saw it. A comment from Lisa, our cousin. Aunt Evelyn, I love you, but this is embarrassing. Serenity tried for years to have a relationship with you. You chose Kira every single time. Own it and move on. Mama, look! Jolie had abandoned the book and was pointing out the window at a deer in our backyard. I see it, baby. Isn't it beautiful? He clapped his hands, delighted by this new adventure. Daryl finished installing the last safety lock and stood back to survey his work. There. Now this place is officially Jolie-proof. Thank you, I said. For everything. For accepting us, for loving us, for being family, Rachel interrupted gently. That's what family does. I looked around our new living room. Boxes labeled Family Chosen sat next to others marked Jolie's Room and New Beginnings. Sunlight streamed through windows that faced a forest instead of a neighborhood where I'd never belonged. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I showed it to Weston, who sighed. Want me to handle this? No, I typed back. Yes, it is. Then I blocked the number and turned off my phone completely. Story time, I announced, settling onto the floor next to Rachel's chair. Once upon a time, I began, making up the words as I went. There was a little bear who lived in a cave that was too small and too cold. So she walked through the forest until she found the perfect spot, and she built herself a new cave, and it was warm and safe and filled with bears who loved her exactly as she was. Jolie clapped his hands. More! And they all lived happily ever after, I finished. Again, he demanded. Again, I agreed, because now we had all the time in the world for stories. Sometimes revenge isn't about hurting back. It's about walking away without waiting to be chased.